Chapter 2467. At this moment, even if Yi Shang's mental fortitude was extremely good and his heart was as firm as 10,000 years old cold steel, he still couldn't calm down. He could hear the announcement that Ao Qingwu had passed the 7th level of the heaven-reaching Bone Pagoda at any moment. Once the announcement was made, tragedy would befall him. If that happened, the consequences would be unimaginable. The skeletons on the 7th level are obviously different from the ones before. There are no passageways on the 7th level. After the 9 skeletons on the 7th level were refreshed, Knight Sorrow realized that they were all wearing dark red armor. The bone swords in their hands were also of a higher grade. They were very powerful. Moreover, there were no passageways on this level. There was no way he could make use of the passageways. In other words, he had to rely on his strength to defeat these skeletons. Luckily, these skeletons are strong enough. That's why Ao Qingwu, who is controlled by the Dark Demon, did not pass the level in a short time. Seeing that the 9 high god skeletons on the 7th floor were strong enough, Knight Sorrow's heart calmed down a bit. He knew that although the person controlling Ao Qingwu's body was the Dark Demon, her strength would not increase by leaps and bounds in such a short time. This time, other than the state that he had just activated, Knight Sorrow dripped a drop of blood to activate the Green Phoenix armor. With that, Knight Sorrow raised all the states that he could activate to the best state. Inferno Demon Subduing. Knight Sorrow did not want to waste any time. He jumped up without hesitation and used the Inferno Demon Subduing with a wide area attack. This move was exactly the same as the one he used in the Realm of Darkness. The red flames and the golden power of virtue intertwined and engulfed the 9 skeletons. Roar! Being burned by the red flames and the golden power of virtue, the skeletons howled in agony. However, none of them fell. They braved the Inferno Demon Subduing and attacked Knight Sorrow together. What a powerful attack! This looks like a combination attack. Facing the 9 bone swords of the 9 skeletons, Knight Sorrow felt like he was facing 900 or even 9,000 swords at the same time. These skeletons actually knew how to attack together. The fine saber lights interweaved into a net, making it impossible for Knight Sorrow to dodge. He could only use the strength of his body to block the cold saber lights. Boom! 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 The body of the roaring Inferno Demon Subduing spear clashed with the fine blade lights, producing a deafening explosion. It was as if the void had been shattered. The momentum was extremely vast. After these skeletons work together, the strength they can unleash should not be inferior to an attack from an ordinary Divine Lord. The 9 guardian skeletons gave Knight Sorrow immense pressure. At this moment, he understood that the difficulty of the 7th level of the Challenge Pagoda was definitely at the Divine Lord level. Facing such a joint attack, if I want to win, I have to find the pattern. In the past, Knight Sorrow, his friends from the God-slaying team, and his brothers from the First Army had all practiced the combination attack. He knew that in a situation where he was not strong enough to crush the skeletons, he could only patiently search for their weakness and prioritize killing one of the skeletons. At this moment, the backlash of the 7-star violent alcade came. He immediately swallowed 2 divine soul recovery elixirs to restore his condition to its peak. Then, he observed the skeletons and their saber trajectories while resisting. Not simple. This combination attack is not simple. In the process of careful observation, Knight Sorrow discovered that this combined attack technique wasn't static. It had a total of 81 different trajectories. This seems to be a combination of 9 palaces and 9 stars. After patiently observing and pondering, Knight Sorrow discovered that the 9 skeletons and 9 bone swords seemed to represent 9 palaces and 9 stars. In the process of attacking, 9 palaces and 9 stars represented the positions of the skeletons and the 9 bone swords respectively. There was a total of 81 combinations. The symbol of 9 palaces and 9 stars was constantly changing on the 9 skeletons and 9 bone swords. If Night Sorrow had not seen this symbol on the 4th and 5th levels, he would definitely not have noticed it. It seems that everything is predestined. Ao Qingwu, who is controlled by the dark demon, definitely did not pay attention to these details. Therefore, I will definitely win this competition. After discovering the combination attack pattern of the 9 skeletons, it was not difficult for Night Sorrow to avoid it. Using his agile body, he weaved through the 9 guarding skeletons and quickly broke their combination attack. Then, he defeated them one by one and successfully destroyed the 9 guarding skeletons. At this moment, there was no announcement from the other side. With a loud bang, the last skeleton was completely destroyed. Night Sorrow immediately heaved a sigh of relief. He thought to himself, fortunately, I did not fail my mission. I passed the 7th level before Ao Qingwu, who is controlled by the dark demon. What's going on? After waiting for a long time, Night Sorrow still did not hear the announcement of successfully passing the level. He could not help feeling puzzled, secretly wondering if there was still some mystery in this. Right then, the 7th level of the challenge tower gave a response. The skeletons and bones that were originally scattered on the ground actually gathered together in an instant, forming a brand new giant skeleton. This skeleton's strength was clearly at the Divine Lord realm. Could it be that the 7th level of the challenge tower ultimately has to defeat this Divine Lord realm skeleton? I'm afraid I'm not its match. Facing the Divine Lord realm skeleton, Night Sorrow, who was only at the Feather God realm, was clear that he was not its match. However, he did not admit defeat. Instead, he shouted, "Even if I'm not your match, I still want to fight around." Then, he took out the soul-splitting evil vanquishing spear from his back and attacked the giant skeleton that was more than a dozen people tall. The Inferno Demon vanquishing spear's grade was not low. But using it to attack a Divine Lord realm skeleton, it was completely inadequate. To win, he could only choose the soul-splitting evil vanquishing spear that he could not unleash its full strength currently. Whoosh! Facing Night Sorrow's attack with the soul-splitting evil vanquishing spear, the giant Divine Lord realm skeleton did not use its bone saber. Instead, it spat out a white bone fire from its mouth. This Divine Lord realm bone fire was extremely powerful. It immediately sent Night Sorrow flying and burned his entire body. The Azure Phoenix battle armor quickly turned to ashes under the bone fire's burning. Following that, Night Sorrow's body also began to crack under the bone fire's burning, revealing countless terrifying cracks. Not good. This white bone fire is evil and powerful. Under the white bone fire's burning, Night Sorrow's crystallized flesh was quickly burned away, revealing the many bones that were originally wrapped in it. What should I do now? This bone fire is too difficult to resist. Do I have to give up on the challenge? No, I can't. I definitely can't give up. Night Sorrow anxiously asked himself as he was burned to a skeleton by the white bone fire in an instant. In such a predicament, he could only choose to use the golden power of virtue to protect his body to prevent himself from being instantly turned to ashes. The thought of giving up flashed through his mind. He continued to use all the bones in his body to resist the white bone fire. Chapter 2468. The feeling of the white bone fire burning his bones was even more painful than climbing a mountain of blades or plunging into a pot of boiling oil. Although Night Sorrow had been through a lot and had suffered countless injuries, this was the first time he had experienced such torment. And this physical pain was quickly transferred to his soul. This kind of Divine Lord level bone fire could actually burn his soul. Night Sorrow immediately understood what it meant to have one's soul on the brink of being torn apart. At this point, he no longer had the ability to speak even if he wanted to quit. However, after persevering in this despair for a while, Night Sorrow suddenly discovered that his burned bones had not been reduced to ashes. Instead, they had become even stronger. The tip of his left pinky had even begun to turn golden. Could this be a special body tempering technique? He was still enduring inhumane pain, but after Night Sorrow discovered the changes in his bones, his anxious emotions immediately calmed down. At this point, he was certain that the burning of the bone fire was similar to the body tempering of lightning. They could both increase the strength of one's body. However, lightning tempered one's body, while bone fire directly strengthened one's bones and soul. This was even rarer. It looks like this is my reward for passing the 7th level. I have to persevere. With this in mind, Night Sorrow, who was about to be tortured to the brink of despair, once again felt an indomitable fighting spirit rise in his heart. And the strength of the bone fire was still constantly increasing. From the low-level Divine Lord level to the middle-level Divine Lord level, then to the high-level Divine Lord level, finally stopping at the invincible Divine Lord level. Night Sorrow felt that his soul was about to be incinerated. The pain brought about by the invincible Divine Lord level bone fire was not something that could be withstood by willpower. Whing. However, at this moment, Night Sorrow's soul trembled. Just as it was about to collapse, his soul's strength was directly promoted to the high-level Divine Feather level. As a result, he endured the burning of the bone fire for a while longer. It was the burning of the invincible Divine Lord level bone fire that caused Night Sorrow's bones to turn completely golden. Is this called a golden body? Night Sorrow, who had discovered the changes in his bones, thought to himself. Achieving a golden body in the bone fire will be another tragedy for you. However, right at that moment, the skeleton that had spat out the bone flame spoke with a strange tone before withdrawing the bone flames. From his tone, it was clear that he wasn't congratulating him, but rather pitying him. Are you the creator of the sky-reaching bone tower? From what you're saying, it's not a good thing that I've achieved the golden body. Night Sorrow, who was slowly regaining his ability to think, asked doubtfully. His voice sounded a little strange when he spoke in his skeleton form. Soon after, his flesh and blood began to heal. In the end, even the high god-level Azure Phoenix battle armor was restored to its original state. It was as if nothing had happened, but Night Sorrow knew that his bones and soul had been strengthened to a certain extent. Moreover, the degree of improvement was not inferior to the changes brought about by the Genesis Essence. I am the first master of the sky-piercing bone pagoda, as well as its first artifact spirit. However, he was not the one who created the bone pagoda. Without the Divine King's strength and astonishing talent, it would be impossible to create a divine artifact like the sky-piercing bone pagoda. After Night Sorrow spoke, the tall skeleton's figure became similar to his, and at the same time, its flesh and blood recovered. It was a middle-aged man with a long face. He had sharp eyebrows and bright eyes. He looked very valiant, but there was a trace of hostility between his brows. There was a trace of pity in his gaze as he looked at Night Sorrow, and he kept shaking his head. Are you also the artifact spirit of the bone pagoda? What's going on? Night Sorrow asked in confusion. After all, Mo Yuqian was the artifact spirit of the sky-piercing bone pagoda. In addition, the other party's regretful expression made him feel very strange. After asking this question, Night Sorrow didn't wait for the middle-aged man to reply before asking another question. Is there some inside story about the sky-piercing bone pagoda? AI. The middle-aged man sighed and said emotionally, the sky-piercing bone pagoda is definitely a supreme treasure for ordinary cultivators to raise their level of body refinement. However, there was a huge curse on every single one of its owners. Every cultivator that it recognizes as its master will eventually become its artifact spirit for various reasons. Golden Body Divine Lord. That's a scam. His name was Xing Yuanshan. Countless reincarnations ago, he became the master of the sky-piercing bone pagoda. However, after a great battle, his body exploded and he had no choice but to become the artifact spirit of the bone pagoda. Senior. What's going on? Can you explain in detail? Yi Shang was confused by the other party's words. He didn't really understand. What I mean is that every master of the Bone Pagoda will become a Golden Body Divine Lord. However, after becoming a Golden Body Divine Lord, their bodies will be destroyed for various reasons, and they will eventually become an artifact spirit. I was the first. Mo Yuqian, who took good care of you, was the 8th. If you make the Bone Pagoda recognize you as its master, you will be the 9th. What awaits you will also be endless tragedy. Xing Yuanshan continued with a face full of unwillingness. After he became the artifact spirit of the sky-piercing Bone Pagoda, he witnessed the tragedies of other cultivators. Hearing this, the doubts in Knight Soro's heart deepened. After thinking for a moment, he asked, Senior. Then, other than you and Brother Mo, where are the other masters of the Bone Pagoda now? Without a doubt, Knight Soro wanted to make the sky-piercing Bone Pagoda recognize him as its master. However, it seemed that there were some problems with this. He had to understand it clearly from the other party. The others are also the final guardians of the 7th floor. However, they are not in the same plane as me. If someone else succeeds, it should be one of them who appears. After saying this, the first artifact spirit of the sky-piercing Bone Pagoda, Xing Yuanshan, reminded Knight Soro, I suspect that the existence of this sky-piercing Bone Pagoda is a conspiracy. The Divine King, who refined it, is very likely that he has some ulterior motives. During the process of breaking through, you should have also discovered that this ruler likes the number 9 very much. The 9 stars and 9 palaces are the same. If you become the 9th master of the Bone Pagoda, you might encounter great terror. It seems that this really is a bit strange. Could it be that making the Bone Pagoda recognize me as its master will affect my karmic luck? Knight Soro had the power of good karma and could determine whether the other party was telling the truth or not. When he heard Xing Yuanshan's words, he couldn't help but feel a chill run down the back of his head. He thought to himself, this matter is really a little strange, and it is very unusual. The bodies of 8 successive masters had all collapsed, and in the end, they had no choice but to become the artifact spirit of the Bone Pagoda. It would be too far-fetched to say that this was a coincidence. Senior, you all passed the 7th floor, so the Bone Pagoda recognized you as its master. Then why aren't there any records of you in the Bone Pagoda? Knight Soro continued to be puzzled. There's nothing strange about this. Every time the sky-piercing Bone Pagoda gives birth to a new master, the previous records are erased. As if seeing Knight Soro's doubts, Xing Yuanshan shook his head. Alright, I keep feeling that everything is related to karma. I want to deduce something from the details. Chapter 2469. What's wrong? Forget it, since I can't figure it out, I won't think about it. I'll just deal with whatever comes my way. Knight Soro seemed to have a strange feeling in his heart, but he could not grasp it no matter how hard he tried, so he did not think too much about it. After all, given the current situation, he had to make the sky-reaching Bone Pagoda recognize him as its master for the safety of High Base City. He could not leave any chance for others. However, Knight Soro felt that he should ask about the origin of the sky-reaching Bone Pagoda so that he could follow the clues and find out the source of some doubts in the future. Hence, he asked, Senior, where did you find this Bone Pagoda and make it recognize you as its master? It was in this endless bone region. Back then, it was also because of a huge battle. Xing Yuanshan did not hide anything and told him everything. His experience was very similar to Mo Yuqian's. Originally, Xing Yuanshan was very happy to make a rare divine weapon like the sky-reaching Bone Pagoda recognize him as its master. However, as time passed, he realized that something was wrong. It seemed that making the Bone Pagoda recognize him as its master would cause him to encounter an inescapable curse. Behind him, there were many talented cultivators who met with calamities one after another. Now, it seemed that it was Knight Soro's turn. He also had a reason to make the Bone Pagoda recognize him as its master. It seemed that this was unavoidable. It seems like reincarnation after reincarnation. Every master of the sky-reaching bone pagoda was an expert with a mission. I wonder what this foretells. The entire matter was complicated and confusing, but Yi Shang knew that it was very likely that it was just as Xing Yuanshan had said. There was some sort of conspiracy involved. After that, under Xing Yuanshan's confirmation, Knight Sorrow chose to make the sky-reaching bone pagoda recognize him as its new master. After making the bone pagoda recognize him as its master, Ao Qingwu's crisis was resolved. However, after becoming the new master of the sky-reaching bone pagoda, Knight Sorrow did not sense Ao Qingwu's aura in the bone pagoda. Could it be that she left so quickly? No, that's not right. It's very likely that the bone pagoda itself is behind this. After thinking carefully, Knight Sorrow realized that something was wrong. This matter was strange. Whether or not Ao Qingwu could break through to the 7th level, whether she was dead or alive, it was impossible for her aura to disappear completely in the bone pagoda in such a short time. Knight Sorrow judged that Ao Qingwu most likely did not appear in the bone pagoda and did not break through to the 6th level. All of this was a plot directed and acted out by the sky-reaching bone pagoda. The goal was to trick him into becoming the new master of the bone pagoda. It was very likely that the creator of the bone pagoda had left behind some soul power in the bone pagoda and could still control it. It was just that no one could find him. It doesn't matter who you are or what you're after. After thinking it through, Knight Sorrow didn't regret his decision. He looked up at the bone pagoda and found Mo Qianqian. They went to visit the Python King together. At this time, the Python King's strength was constantly increasing. Knowing that Yi Shang was leaving, he wanted to leave with him, but he was unwilling to lose this opportunity to become stronger. In the end, under Knight Sorrow's persuasion, the Python King chose to stay in the Endless Bone Realm. Knight Sorrow was very grateful for this. After that, Yi Shang bid farewell to Mo Yuqian and brought Jing Yun, Ho Lai, Zhu Yunxia, and Geng Chen to the sky-piercing bone tower and the resources he had obtained from exploring the Endless Bone region. They were all brought back to the God Realm. Outside the Endless Bone Pagoda, the 5 of them appeared outside High Base City. When they reappeared in the divine world, the thick aura of heaven and earth immediately rolled over. The complete laws of heaven and earth made everyone feel very comfortable. Their cultivation instantly recovered to before they entered the Endless Bone Pagoda. I'll collect the resources first. We'll divide them equally after we settle down. The resources brought out from the Endless Bone Pagoda were not little. Knight Sorrow immediately used the Clear Sky Pagoda to collect everything. No one objected to this. They were enjoying the taste of the divine world and the joy of having their God Yuan Qi and divine soul recovered. They could explore thousands of miles with just a slight use of their God Yuan Qi. It was a feeling they had not felt in a long time. In the Endless Bone Pagoda, they were like primitive people who only knew how to fight with their bodies. My cultivation is really awkward. Knight Sorrow couldn't help but laugh when he felt the changes in his body. At the moment, his cultivation level was only at the lower level of the Divine Feather Realm. His body was at the middle level of the Divine Feather Realm, and the strength of his soul was at the upper level of the Divine Feather Realm. His power of merit was half a step into the Divine Feather Realm. All of these improvements were basically completed in the Endless Bone Realm. Speaking of which, he had really benefited a lot in the Bone Realm. It could be said that he had unintentionally taken advantage of the situation. His cultivation was too low in comparison. Knight Sorrow planned to settle everything and enter the Clear Sky Pagoda to study the flawless divine art that Mo Yuqian had given him. He wanted to learn from it and perfect the myriad Dao's treasured tome. Brother Knight Sorrow, are you really at the basic divine feather god realm? Why can't I see through it? At this moment, Ho Lai, who was standing at the side, looked at the 4 people around him. He discovered that Zhu Yunxia and Geng Chen's cultivation were the same as his, at the upper divine realm. He wasn't surprised at all. What made Holai curious was that he couldn't see through Jing Yun and Night Sorrow's cultivation. Holai was more or less aware of Jing Yun's cultivation, so he didn't ask much. He was puzzled as to why he couldn't see through Night Sorrow's cultivation. I have the virtue energy protecting me. If I didn't do it willingly, only a few people in the realm of the gods can see through my cultivation. As for my cultivation age and other things, no one can calculate them. Night Sorrow didn't hide anything from his friends. He told them about the benefits of cultivating the virtue energy. Holai, Zhu Yunxia, and Gengchen all revealed envious expressions. However, it was too late for them to cultivate the virtue energy now. Moreover, their temperament wasn't enough. They didn't have the chance to cultivate to Night Sorrow's level, so they didn't think too much about it. All of you are superior gods, and your body refinement realms aren't low either. I'm sure you will have good prospects in the future. There's no need to be envious of me. Night Sorrow smiled and comforted them when he saw their envious expressions. On the surface, it seemed that Holai and the other two were having a better time in the realm of the gods. After saying that, Night Sorrow looked at Jing Yun and asked curiously, Jing Yun, what's your cultivation? I can't see through it. Night Sorrow was surprised by Jing Yun's cultivation because he couldn't see through it at all. Before entering the Endless Bone territory, I was a half-step monarch god. Now, I think I'm an invincible superior god. I have the confidence to enter the top 100 of the superior god list. Jing Yun smiled and released her aura slightly. Immediately, a vast god origin energy surrounded Night Sorrow and gave him a lot of pressure. In the Endless Bone territory, Jing Yun not only raised her body to the level of a superior god, but her bloodline had also undergone 2 awakenings. Her talent and strength were much stronger than before she entered the Endless Bone territory. Now, her strength was much stronger than when she was in the Endless Bone territory. Presumably, when the time came, she would break through to the monarch god realm. You're so strong. The current rulers of High Base City are the 5 superior gods. I don't think any of them can defeat you. Hearing Jing Yun's words, Night Sorrow was surprised. At the same time, he felt that High Base City was so weak that it made one's hair stand on end. After all, it had existed for so many reincarnations. Even if it took time, some superior gods and monarchs would appear. Now, it was ruled by 5 superior gods. This was strange, really strange. Chapter 2470. What? High Base City is so weak now. Was High Base City massacred in the past few reincarnations? When Night Sorrow finished speaking, Jing Yun, Holai, and the others all looked at him in surprise. In their era, only a few reincarnations ago, although High Base City wasn't strong and didn't have many divine lords, there were many high gods. Now, there were only 5 high gods. This was too pitiful. They suspected that High Base City had been massacred. If not, it was impossible for such a situation to occur. There had to be a story behind this. I'm not too sure about this. Let's wait until we settle down and ask around. Night Sorrow was a rookie who had just arrived in the divine realm. He didn't know much about High Base City. After thinking for a while, he asked, I've heard of the Feather God list, the High God list, and the Divine Lord list, but I haven't studied them in detail. Are these lists just for show, or do they have a specific purpose? Although Yi Shang had read many books, he still wasn't clear about the details of these matters. Jing Yun knew that Night Sorrow hadn't experienced much in the divine realm. She patiently explained in a gentle voice, as long as you enter the top 100 of the Feather God list, the High God list, or the Divine Lord list, you will be called the Invincible Feather God, High God, or Divine Lord. You will also receive the attention of various large factions. You will even receive the favor of the Divine King or the Creator. If the Divine King or the Creator takes a fancy to you, you will be taken care of. Your future will be limitless. So it's to receive the attention of the Divine King or the Creator. There are no practical rewards. Hearing Jing Yun's explanation, Knight Sorrow was a little disappointed. He didn't want to join any faction. He just wanted to get all kinds of resources as soon as possible. These lists weren't very attractive. It was like flattering the Divine King or the Creator. That wasn't his style. Immediately after, while entering the city, Knight Sorrow asked, "I heard that the Divine Realm is divided into regions by the 7 creators. If others want to establish their own factions, will they be attacked by the creators?" Knight Sorrow had his own ideas about the future. He didn't want to join any faction and be bound by rules. Now that he had obtained a lot of resources and was much stronger, he felt that he could make a difference in High Base City. Ha! Brother Knight Sorrow, you worry too much. There were plenty of people in the God world who had established their own organizations, but there were only a few sovereigns. Generally speaking, hegemons only care about other hegemons and a few extremely powerful Divine King. Ho Lai laughed as he explained. He felt that Knight Sorrow was overthinking things. However, Knight Sorrow continued to ask seriously, basically, anyone can establish a force. Generally, only those who threaten certain forces or individuals will be targeted. Is that right? That must be the case. However, I feel that if you don't have full confidence, even if you want to establish your own force, it's best not to establish a base. The territory of the God realm was not something that an average person could guard. If you're not careful, you'll be annihilated. Ho Lai knew what Knight Sorrow was thinking and continued to speak. Alright, I understand. Actually, I have quite a few clansmen, and I really want to find a place for them to cultivate in peace, and also a place for them to gain experience. Right now, they're living on a desolate island, isolated from the rest of the world. This isn't good. Knight Sorrow told them about his clansmen, but it was hard to know what was in a person's heart. He didn't bring Jing Yun and the others to Night Moon Island. After entering the city, he and the others chatted and laughed as they rushed to the mansion gifted by Styx. During this process, Ho Lai and the others learned about the existence of Xian Jizi and Neopodian. They also learned that Knight Sorrow didn't have many talents by his side. This made them feel good. If Knight Sorrow had many trusted subordinates, it wouldn't be easy for them to survive. Now, it seemed that Ho Lai, Zhu Yunxia, and Geng Qin could all become core members. As for Jing Yun, her goal was to take revenge. In the past, her enemy's strength had been at the Divine Lord realm or above. If nothing unexpected happened, he would be even stronger now. She was prepared to stay with Knight Sorrow and the others for a period of time and then find a powerful sect to increase her strength. Once she was strong enough, she would take revenge. Brother Xian Jizi and Brother Podian are in the mansion. They didn't go to the Great Ocean and Sky Bazaar. They flew to Nanhuai Alley. Knight Sorrow scanned the area with his godly soul and found that Xian Jizi and Neopodian were cultivating in the mansion. That's my mansion. An exalted god gave it to me. It's not very big, but it's very elegant. Let's stay here for the time being. When they were a few hundred li away from his mansion, Knight Sorrow pointed in the direction of his mansion. Sigh, Nanhuai Alley is still the same. It's a pity that the people have changed. The Jing clan's businesses have probably become someone else's. After a few reincarnations, Jing Yun returned to Nanhuai Alley and sighed. We have a lot of resources. Let's exchange them for divine crystals in a few days and buy back the Jing clan's businesses. When he saw that Jing Yun was sad, Knight Sorrow comforted her and shouted, Brother Xian Jizi, Brother Podian, I brought some friends back. Captain, it's really you. When they heard Night Sorrow's voice, Xian Jizi and Neopodian stopped cultivating and flew out of the pavilion. After Night Sorrow had destroyed the Jubao pavilion, he had been taken to the enforcement team and disappeared. The two of them had been very worried. Now, they regarded Night Sorrow as their backbone. Hee hee. How have you been, my two brothers? When he saw the two familiar faces, Night Sorrow sighed. The two of them had spent a few months in the divine world, but he had spent a few thousand years in the endless bone region. After greeting the two of them, Night Sorrow pointed at them and introduced them. These two are Xian Jizi and Neopodian. They're my brothers. After that, he introduced Jing Yun and the others to Xian Jizi and Neopodian. Captain, how strong is this Miss Jing Yun? After Yi Shang finished his introduction and everyone greeted each other, Xian Jizi asked curiously. Xian Jizi could see through everyone's cultivation except for Jing Yun, who was like a hazy fog. Hee hee, she's a high god. But we're all friends, so there's no need to worry about it. Night Sorrow did not treat Jing Yun as an outsider and said with a smile. Night Sorrow is right. You two don't have to be so reserved. Jing Yun smiled politely. Miss Jing Yun is really easygoing. The other high gods in High Base City are all invincible existences. Commoners like us can't even get in touch with them. Even if we do, we won't be treated well. Xian Jizi sincerely praised Jing Yun. He felt that she had the demeanor of a great person. He had once divined for the city lord, Sheng Guanyun, but Sheng Guanyun had treated him with disdain. Jing Yun's strength was undoubtedly one of the top in High Base City. She was as easygoing as a girl next door, giving people a very amiable feeling. After hearing that Jing Yun was a high god, Neo Potion's eyes lit up and he said, Miss Jing Yun is a high god. Then we might be able to get out of this crisis. Crisis? What crisis? Night Sorrow immediately asked after hearing Neo Potion's words. Neopodian was not a scheming person. Night Sorrow immediately understood that the two of them were in trouble and it was related to the high gods. Chapter 2471. Yi Shang's tone was very heavy. The joyous atmosphere of the reunion in the residence was instantly diluted by the heavy atmosphere. Everyone's eyes were focused on Neo Potion's chubby face. Sigh. Neopodian sighed and said with a sad face, after the captain left. Those people from Jubao Pavilion would beat me and the old faker on the street whenever they saw us. They tortured us and almost destroyed our cultivation. Now we don't even dare to leave the mansion. In the past year, Xian Jizi and Neopodian had been bullied. They didn't kill them because they wanted to torture them for a long time. People from Jubao Pavilion. Looks like they found out about our relationship. I'm the one who got you into trouble. I'll get back at them for you. But every time you were beaten on the street, the law enforcement team just stood by and did nothing. I remember that the law enforcement captain in this area is called Murong Bai. Is it because the leader of Jubao Pavilion has broken through to the great god level and they don't dare to interfere? Night Sorrow asked coldly. Last time when he made a scene in Jubao Pavilion, the law enforcement team held a grudge against Xian Jizi and Neopodian. There was a reason for that. But the law enforcement team was responsible for the safety of High Base City. If they didn't follow the rules, Night Sorrow would be very disappointed. He had a good impression of Murong Bai and Zhuo Wei among the 5 law enforcement captains. Captain, here's the thing. The leader of Jubao Pavilion, Feng Xiaoyun, has indeed broken through to the great god level. The law enforcement captain didn't dare to control the people of Jubao Pavilion because of him. But now the law enforcement captains have changed. Neopodian took a breath and continued, I heard that the previous captains, Murong Bai and Zhuo Wei, were taken away by the higher-ups because of their outstanding talents. The higher-ups? What higher-ups? Night Sorrow asked. High Base City is located in the Heartless Dominion, which is the territory of the Heartless Divine King. He has many divine emperors under him and has many cities under his control. The two captains, Murongbai and Zhuowei, were taken away by the forces under the divine emperors. Niu Padian explained. Speaking of the Wuxin Divine King, a look of worship appeared on his face. As long as a talented cultivator appears in High Base City, they will be taken away. I heard that this is the intention of the Divine King. Xian Jizi also heard about this matter. From the looks of it, the Divine King Wuxin is still taking care of High Base City. Hearing the name Wuxin Divine King, Knight Sorrow was disgusted. He immediately thought of Mo Yuqian and the things that happened in the past. If it weren't for the many resources provided by the three invincible divine lords, how could he have become the Divine King? I don't think that's necessarily the case. After the Wuxin Divine King left High Base City, he never returned. If he really has feelings for this city, he probably won't return even once every few epochs, right? Xian Jizi deduced. He felt that things might not be so simple. Maybe he's so powerful that we didn't even know when he came back. Niu Padian continued to say with admiration. After all, the other party was a big shot from High Base City. He was an extremely famous existence in the entire God Realm. The strongest experts in the God Realm were undoubtedly the seven rulers. Apart from the few of them who had absolute fame, the rest were all divine kings. Wuxin was able to become the Divine King in a barren place like High Base City and obtain the favor of the Dark Moon ruler. This wasn't simple at all. He was close to standing at the peak of the God Realm. Whether or not he has feelings for High Base City, perhaps we can only see it when the city is in a life and death situation. Knight Sorrow said based on his own judgment. He had a natural dislike for the Wuxin Divine King. However, he didn't say anything in detail, afraid that it would hurt Niu Padian. After saying this, he looked at Jing Yun and the others and said, I can deal with this matter myself. You all rest in the mansion first and get used to the pace of cultivation in the God Realm. After I deal with this matter, I'll refine suitable divine artifacts and defensive treasures for everyone. The resources we obtain in the Bone Realm should be enough to support our consumption. After this, we'll discuss the matter of establishing a force. Brother Knight Sorrow, you're treating us like outsiders. We're brothers who have gone through life and death together. Now that we've encountered this kind of situation, how can we stand by and let you take the risk yourself? Ho Lai was the first to stand up and express his displeasure after hearing Knight Sorrow's words. That's right, Knight Sorrow, aren't you treating us like outsiders? Jing Yun also said angrily, I didn't have the ability to help you in the Dark Realm and couldn't accompany you to the end. That's fine. But now, I can definitely help you with this matter. How can you still say that? Since the two of them had already spoken, Zhu Yunxia and Geng Chen didn't say anything. However, they also looked at Knight Sorrow with puzzled gazes. I'm not being polite. It's just that there aren't many experts in High Base City right now. No one can threaten my safety. Knight Sorrow smiled confidently and explained, in addition, I need to go to the Zhenyuan cave to look for opportunities in the near future. I can't display too much strength, otherwise the other party might not give me the opportunity to enter. I will deal with this matter and control it well. Moreover, with your strength and talent, Jing Yun, as long as you make a move, you will definitely be chosen by the people of the Wuxin Divine King. I don't think it's a good thing for you to be taken away by them. This matter is a bit troublesome. Regarding Knight Sorrow and Jing Yun, the Wuxin Divine King's reputation wasn't good. Jing Yun naturally didn't want to be taken away by his people. She wanted to find a suitable sect to join and then improve her strength step by step, relying on her own strength to take revenge with her own hands. After thinking for a while, Jing Yun suddenly asked doubtfully, then what if you display too much strength and are chosen? I will control it well. I shouldn't be chosen by anyone. However, if I'm chosen by his people, I might go and see what's going on. Of course, the premise of all this is that I have to solve the crisis of my family. After Night Sorrow finished speaking, he looked at everyone and said, "Next, I will go to the Jubao Pavilion. When I come back, I might bring some surprises for everyone." Master Night Sorrow, hearing that you have returned, Situlai specially came to see you. Can you let me into the mansion for a chat? However, at this moment, a voice suddenly came from outside the mansion. This voice came from Situlai. Hearing his voice, Night Sorrow was a bit unhappy. He thought, Mingi's people are watching me so closely. I haven't even sat down yet and they already came looking for me. When I was in trouble, you should also have people watching me. Why didn't I see you help? On one hand, he didn't have a good impression of Mingi and his people. However, Night Sorrow definitely had to go to the Jinyuan cave. He looked at Xian Jizi and said, "Brother, go to the Drunken Immortal restaurant and buy some good wine and delicacies to entertain our friends. I will go and deal with this matter first." Chapter 2472. But, I. Hearing Night Sorrow's words, Xian Jizi was stunned. He subconsciously felt that he would be beaten if he went out. He would be too embarrassed to ask Jing Yun and the others to accompany him. Seeing Xian Jizi's worry, Night Sorrow smiled and said, "Brother, don't be afraid. Now that I've returned, they will definitely find trouble with me directly. They won't find you." After saying this, Night Sorrow got up and went to the courtyard gate. He cupped his hands at Situlai and said, "Brother Situ, how have you been?" Master Night Sorrow, it's good that you're back. It's good that you're back. I heard that you were taken away by the enforcement team. That scared me. What happened after that? I heard that the law enforcement team is a place that eats people whole without spitting out their bones. Night Sorrow was taken to the enforcement team by Ling Chinchou. Then, he was forced to escape into the Endless Bone Realm under Chen Hui's pressure. Chen Hui did not tell anyone about this matter. Later, he successfully took over Ling Chinchou's position. The matter of being forced into the Endless Bone Realm was definitely not over. However, there were too many things. Night Sorrow planned to deal with them one by one. After dealing with the Jubao Pavilion's matter, he would go find Chen Hui. After I was taken away, they interrogated me for a few days. Aren't I released now? Night Sorrow did not mention the Endless Bone Realm. He said, "Brother Situ, you rushed over in such a hurry. Is there something else?" Situlai did not have any feelings for him at all. Night Sorrow knew that he was definitely not someone who would visit him without a reason. "Brother Night Sorrow, you're right. I'm here on Lord Mingi's orders." Situlai nodded and said, "My lord heard that you had a conflict with the Jubao Pavilion, and the pavilion master of the Jubao Pavilion, Feng Xiaoyun, has already broken through to the lower high god realm. If he does anything to you, the consequences will be unimaginable. My lord's intention is for him to mediate the matter and let you turn the matter into a small one." "Oh, so that's how it is. Take me to see your lord. It just so happens that I want to settle this matter as well." Night Sorrow didn't fear the pavilion master of the treasure-gathering pavilion, Feng Xiaoyun. But since Mingi wanted to be a mediator, he decided to give him a chance. If Mingi resolved this matter well and helped him conceal his strength, then he would help everyone in the Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave. Mo Qianqian, God Lord Jinyuan, and City Lord Ao Fang were all outstanding predecessors. Even without Long Tianqing's letter, Night Sorrow wanted to pay his respects to God Lord Jinyuan and see if he could help. "All right. Master Night Sorrow, please follow me." Towards Night Sorrow, Situlai was still quite polite. After saying this, the two of them rushed to Mingi's residence. When Long Tianqing came here last time on Night Sorrow, he felt that this mansion was grand and imposing. However, now that he was here again, he felt that it was lacking. It lacked the charm of Long Tianqing's mansion and gave off the feeling of a nouveau riche. Situlai, bring Master Knight Sorrow in. As soon as the two of them entered the mansion, Mingy's voice came from the meeting room. This was the same trick as last time. He's showing off his strength as a high god again to intimidate me. Yi Shang chuckled at this. He'd killed countless god-level dark creatures in the Dark Dominion. Now that Mingy was showing off his strength with a roar, it was a bit ridiculous. However, Knight Sorrow didn't say anything. He followed Situlai into Mingy's meeting room emotionlessly. This time, apart from Mingy, Mingzi, and a group of High God Realm subordinates, Mingy was the only one in the meeting hall. There was also Mingy's daughter, the half-step High God Mingyu. There were also 3 formation masters and 3 alchemists that Mingy had recruited for the Zhenyuan Divine Lord's Cave. Among the 6 people, there was a young man who looked about the same as Knight Sorrow. There was also a sage-like old man. They were all arrogant people. Seeing that Knight Sorrow's cultivation was only at the lower Divine Feather God realm, they were all arrogant and didn't even bother to look at him. Knight Sorrow pays his respects to High God Mingy. After all, he was here as a guest. Knight Sorrow didn't show any arrogance. He cupped his hands at Mingy, who was sitting at the head of the table. "Ha, Master Knight Sorrow, you don't have to be so polite. Please take a seat." King Mingzi's seat was at the bottom left of Mingy. His daughter Mingyu's seat was at the bottom right of Mingy. He had arranged for Knight Sorrow to sit beside Mingyu. Seeing that Knight Sorrow had been arranged to sit beside Mingyu, the 3 formation masters and 3 alchemists were unhappy. However, in front of Mingy, they naturally couldn't do anything. They just sipped their tea silently. Where there are people, there will be politics. Just the attention of a high god is enough to make these people so jealous. With their temperament, they probably won't go far on the path of cultivation. Seeing everyone's expressions, Knight Sorrow sighed inwardly. He sat down and said, "I wonder how the High God has invited me over to resolve the matter of Jubao Pavilion. Sigh, this matter is really difficult to resolve. Now that Jubao Pavilion's Pavilion Master Feng Xiaoyun has broken through to become a lower god, he has vaguely become the 6th powerhouse of High Base City. However, I, Mingy, will do my best to protect Master Knight Sorrow." Mingy sighed and put on a troubled expression. "High God, how do you think this matter can be resolved? There's no harm in saying it directly." Knight Sorrow asked directly. "Master Knight Sorrow, I know that the cause of what happened that day is not the fault of Master Knight Sorrow. However, in the battle, you did indeed destroy the entire Jubao Pavilion. Furthermore, you stole a lot of Jubao Pavilion's resources." Mingy stared at Knight Sorrow's face and said in a serious tone, "If you want to resolve this matter, I can be the host and let Master Knight Sorrow and Jubao Pavilion's Pavilion Master Feng Xiaoyun meet. At that time, you can apologize to them and compensate for their losses. This matter should be resolved." "High God Mingy, what kind of compensation do you think is appropriate?" Mingy's words made Knight Sorrow very unhappy. However, he did not explode and continued with the conversation. At this point, he was completely disappointed in Mingy. "I think that the compensation doesn't need to be much. Master Knight Sorrow only needs to return all the resources that you stole. Then, you can compensate for the damage to the building. Finally, you can use the taboo divine spear to apologize. This matter should be resolved." Mingy's tone was very polite. However, what he said made Knight Sorrow laugh. It was impossible for him to compensate Jubao Pavilion, let alone the Samsara Heavenly Halberd. However, Knight Sorrow still did not explode. He said with a smile, "If you only compensate this much, it's completely acceptable. High God, can you help me make an appointment with Jubao Pavilion's Pavilion Master Feng Xiaoyun?" You're teachable. It's okay for young people to make mistakes. You just have to know when to advance and when to retreat. This way, you can go further. Seeing Night Sorrow's cooperative appearance, Mingi smiled and then used the voice transmission stone to contact Jubao Pavilion's pavilion master Feng Xiaoyun. At least he's sensible. However, he's clearly lacking in courage since he's willing to compensate for the taboo divine weapon. He's not as outstanding as Uncle said. Mingi's daughter, Mingyu, saw Night Sorrow's performance and could not help but send a voice transmission to Mingi's advisor, Qingmingzi. Qingmingzi had praised Night Sorrow several times in front of her. I think he did very well. In front of the High God, the Feather God is just an ant. If he's too unyielding, he'll be crushed to death. Qingmingzi said according to his own judgment. Chapter 2473. Some of the other people present were discussing animatedly. Their voices were not very soft. Night Sorrow could hear their words. Most of them were hot-bloodedness, guts, and humility. You will understand what hot-bloodedness and humility are when you enter the Zhenyuan Divine Emperor's cave. Taking in everyone's expressions, Yi Shang felt that these cultivators, who hadn't experienced much and whose horizons were limited to High Base City, were pitifully narrow-minded. They were treating the exalted god like a ruler. It would be strange if people like them had any future development. Master Night Sorrow, I've already discussed with Feng Xiaoyun, the leader of the Jubao Pavilion. We will book the Drunken Immortal in tomorrow at noon to meet him. What do you think? Mingi's words seemed very polite on the surface, but in fact, there was a trace of indisputable. That's fine. Night Sorrow nodded and said, but exalted god Mingi is very busy every day. I'll go alone tomorrow. With your help, I don't think Feng Xiaoyun will do anything to me. That's fine too. I've done a good job as a mediator. You can discuss the rest among yourselves. Mingi smiled and said, but the exalted god's orders cannot be disobeyed. If Feng Xiaoyun has any unreasonable requests, Master Night Sorrow will have to tolerate it. Do not offend him and lose your life. Just like everyone else, he did not think much of Night Sorrow's strength. Thank you for the reminder. Night Sorrow replied casually and said, if there's nothing else, I'll go back and prepare. All right. When Master Night Sorrow returns, we still need to talk about the cave, Underworld God said. He was very interested in something in the Zhenyuan Divine Emperor's cave. Night Sorrow had the power of merit. He was very lucky and had a high chance of encountering a fortuitous encounter. He wanted to make good use of it. From beginning to end, he didn't see any great increase in Yishan's strength. Relatively speaking, his vision was not high either. Don't worry, I'll return safely. At this point, Night Sorrow was already tired of talking to Acheron. He quickly left Acheron's mansion. After leaving Mingi's cave abode, Night Sorrow rushed in the direction of Nanhui Alley. However, he didn't enter his own cave abode. Instead, he used his taboo power to break through Long Tianqing's array formation and entered her residence. Without seeing Yi Linghuan, Lin Piaomiao, Yi Xiaoluo, and his other family members, he wasn't in the mood to drink with Jing Yun and the others. Walking into the mansion, Night Sorrow didn't see Long Tianqing and her maid. Instead, he saw Lin Piaomiao feeding the chickens and ducks in the courtyard. At this moment, Lin Piaomiao's clothes were coarse and she looked a little haggard. However, her complexion was much better than a year ago. It was obvious that Long Tianqing's treatment was effective. Sister Xian, I'm here to see you. He hadn't seen his family for thousands of years. The moment he saw Lin Piaomiao, Night Sorrow was very emotional. His voice trembled slightly. Husband. Hearing this shout, Lin Piaomiao immediately turned her head. Let me give you a hug. In the Endless Bone region and the Dark region, Night Sorrow had encountered countless dangers. Now that he saw a familiar figure, he he immediately hugged her. Don't be like this. Grandfather and Xiaoluo are both here. Knight Sorrow, who was holding Lin Piaomiao in his arms, leaned forward and kissed her. This made Lin Piaomiao shy. In the past, she was stronger than Knight Sorrow. At that time, she was always standing in front of Knight Sorrow. Now, she was acting like a little woman. It's okay. Knight Sorrow said as he got up and kissed her again. The thousands of years of suppressed emotions also disappeared at this moment. After their lips parted, Knight Sorrow walked into the thatched cottage and saw Yi Linghuan and Yi Xiaoluo playing chess. The two of them looked good. It was obvious that they didn't need to continue suffering from their illness. Where's Senior Long Tianqing? At this moment, Knight Sorrow, who was in a good mood, asked. Senior returned to the family to settle some matters. She will be back in 3 years. Lin Piaomiao explained and continued, Senior told us to tell you something. She said that High Base City may encounter a crisis in the near future. High Base City will encounter a crisis. What's going on? What else did she say? Long Tianqing wasn't someone who spoke without thinking. When Knight Sorrow heard Lin Piaomiao's words, he immediately asked. Senior didn't say. She only said that it will be a disaster, but it should be fine in a few years. Lin Piaomiao said truthfully. Long Tianqing left in a hurry and didn't say it in detail. But the three of them could hear a trace of worry in her voice. A disaster. Could it be that the dark murlocs or the soul-devouring beasts may attack High Base City again? Or is the crisis in the dark region not completely resolved? Ao Qinggu, who was controlled by the dark demon, was missing. This was a hidden danger. The soul-devouring beast clan that was suppressed by the Zhenyu Divine Lord's cave abode was also a hidden danger. The dark murlocs at the bottom of the sea also needed to be on guard against. Knight Sorrow planned to let Xian Jizi do a divination to find out what was going on when he returned. After that, Knight Sorrow had a simple meal with his family and drank some wine with his grandfather. Then, he walked out of Long Tianqing's mansion and returned to his own. At this time, Xian Jizi and the others were already full. They were sitting under the pavilion in the courtyard and discussing the matter of divination. So everyone is discussing the matter of divination. Knight Sorrow walked to the front of the crowd and recounted Long Tianqing's words with a serious expression. He also asked Xian Jizi to use the compass to do a divination. Alright, since it involves the safety of High Base City, I, Xian Jizi, will do my best today. At this moment, under everyone's gaze, Xian Jizi cut his fingertip and dripped 3 drops of blood on the compass. He casually threw the compass into the sky and silently recited a mysterious incantation to deduce the future of High Base City. Boom! But in an instant, the 3 Thunder Tribulations compass that Knight Sorrow had refined for him immediately exploded in the air. Xian Jizi also suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. High Base City's future seems to involve a great figure that can't be divined. Xian Jizi shook his head helplessly. He didn't have the ability to deduce any results. If he forced himself to do so, he would only end up dead. It shouldn't be related to me, right? Brother's compass should be able to deduce some things about me. Knight Sorrow thought to himself speechlessly. After all, Xian Jizi had divined that he had killed Shangguan Lin. It can't be that it involves the heartless divine king, so it can't be divined, right? Knight Sorrow suddenly thought at this time. Then, Knight Sorrow and the others discussed the follow-up matters. He said, everyone, I'll be leaving for a few days after I settle the trouble at the Jubao Pavilion tomorrow. It's very likely that the outside of High Base City will not be peaceful in the near future. I'm preparing to bring all of my clansmen into the city. You can all stay here and cultivate for a few days. If the Dark Merman at the bottom of the sea were to attack, then Night Moon Island would be under great threat. Knight Sorrow was naturally worried about his clansmen on the island. After he finished speaking, he rushed to the Drunken Immortal Inn and paid a large amount of divine crystals to book the Drunken Immortal Inn for the next day. Then, he found a first-class private room in the Drunken Immortal Inn and entered the Clear Sky Pagoda. In the accelerated space, he started to study the flawless divine technique that Immerse had given him. He was preparing to study it properly and perfect the myriad Daos treasured tomes Feather God realm. The high gods that he had encountered in the dark domain were all body-refining high gods. Their true strength was much weaker than the high gods of the divine realm. Chapter 2474. Will my presence here affect my lord's cultivation? Knight Sorrow entered the space. He had just sat down and didn't have time to read the flawless divine art. Yuan Xianro, who was resting in the Clear Sky Pagoda, timidly walked in front of him. I'm sorry. There were too many things and I forgot to arrange for you. Seeing Yuan Xianro standing in front of him, who was the 73rd person he had saved from the Jubao Pavilion, Knight Sorrow felt a little guilty. She had awakened him after Knight Sorrow absorbed the Genesis essence, which was equivalent to saving his life. After returning to the God world, he had forgotten to settle her down in his residence. This was too negligent. My lord, I'm in the Clear Sky Pagoda's space. You have too many things to consider, so don't blame yourself. But tomorrow afternoon, you will face the Jubao Pavilion's Feng Shaoyun alone. Are you confident? Yuan Xianro asked worriedly. Speaking of which, Knight Sorrow had formed a grudge with the Jubao Pavilion because of her. But at this point, she couldn't help even if she wanted to. She could only worry. Of course I'm confident. The Azure Phoenix battle armor on my body can withstand the attacks of a high god without divine Yuan Qi. Feng Shaoyun is only a low god and can't break my defense. Moreover, the strength of my body is definitely stronger than his. In close combat, I can completely crush him. But my cultivation and movement techniques are weaker. I have to improve in 100 days to ensure that he won't escape. After explaining confidently, Knight Sorrow looked at Yuan Xianro and said, I've collected countless cultivation resources in the Clear Sky Pagoda. You can use them as you wish and try to break through to the God realm as soon as possible. In the God world, without the cultivation of the God realm, you're still too weak. My lord, this isn't appropriate. You've already done me a great favor by saving me. If I use your cultivation resources, I won't be able to pay you back. What Yi Shang had not expected was that Yuan Xianro would actually shake her head and refuse. She was a woman with principles. If you hadn't woken me up in the endless bone realm, I might still be asleep. You deserve the cultivation resources. Quickly break through to the God realm. If nothing unexpected happens, I will need your help very soon. The resources needed to cultivate to the spirit state were just a drop in the ocean for Yi Shang, so he said in a tone that was not to be taken lightly. Can I really help you? What Yuan Xianro cared about was the second half of the sentence. This was her personality. She believed in the principle of not accepting rewards without doing anything. But the prerequisite is that you have to cultivate to the deity realm. Spending 100 years in the Clear Sky Pagoda is only 1 year in the outside world. Make the best use of your time to cultivate. Resources can be consumed as you wish. I still have to cultivate, so I won't bother about you. After saying this, Knight Sorrow flipped through the flawless divine art. The cultivation technique created by the Divine King was not simple. Even though Knight Sorrow's soul power was outstanding, he still needed to carefully ponder every word before he could understand the exact meaning of the divine art. Just like when he studied Imo Qianqian's body-tempering insights, Knight Sorrow also studied the Feather God realm and the High God realm. Using them, he continued to complete the Feather God realm of the Myriad Dao Treasured Tome. The Feather God realm of the Myriad Dao Treasured Tome was divided into 3 parts. The body-tempering part was called Wolf Smoke, and the cultivation part was called Cultivation. Knight Sorrow originally thought of a name. However, after thinking about it, he decided not to divide it so carefully. He directly called the immortal god realm part of the myriad Tao treasured tome the immortal god art. The part he was studying now was called the feather god art. Currently, the feather god art was only lacking the soul part. However, he did not have the soul-strengthening experience of his predecessors. Therefore, he was unable to complete the feather god art. If he could complete the immortal art's feather chapter, then the strength of Yi Shang's ki, body, and soul might very well reach a whole new level for feather god cultivators. If I complete the feather god art, I'm afraid I will immediately encounter an extremely terrifying lightning tribulation. As long as the feather god art was successfully created, it would create a new history in the deity world. Therefore, he would definitely encounter a lightning tribulation. Knight Sorrow was very satisfied with this. After that, he did not absorb the deity crystals to cultivate. Instead, he found a few spatial movement techniques that he had snatched from the Jubao Pavilion and started studying them. These spatial movement techniques were not bad. They each had their own strengths. They were considered the best movement techniques that a feather god could cultivate. But Knight Sorrow's goal was to be able to fight against the high gods. Naturally, he was not satisfied. He combined the strengths of these space elemental movement techniques. He fused the spatial movement techniques together and created a new one, the Vanishing Shadow Void Escape. The Vanishing Shadow Void Escape relied on Knight Sorrow's bloodline talent. It could be used to travel through the void of the deity world. In terms of speed, it was much faster than a feather god. After entering the void, only experts who were much stronger than him would be able to find him. After about 100 days, Knight Sorrow mastered the Vanishing Shadow Void Escape. He returned to the Drunken Immortalin's private room from the Clear Sky Pagoda. It was already the morning of the second day. There were still more than 2 hours before the noon appointment. Since the entire Drunken Immortal Inn was booked, there was not a single guest in the huge Drunken Immortal Inn. Go find your boss. Knight Sorrow walked out of the room and called out to a female cultivator in a white gauze dress. He asked her to call the manager of the Drunken Immortal Inn. The manager of the Drunken Immortal Inn was a half-step feather god. Her name was Wei Yan. Is there anything I can help you with? Knight Sorrow was a VIP who had spent a fortune to book the entire inn. Wei Yan quickly rushed over and asked politely. She did not put on airs as a manager. Knight Sorrow took a sip of tea and ordered, "Prepare a large private room for me. It's best if it's an independent space where no one can eavesdrop." "Yes, my lord." "Do you have any other orders?" Knight Sorrow's cultivation was only at the lower feather god level, but Wei Yan, who was half-step high god, still addressed him as, "my lord," with great respect. Knight Sorrow was slightly surprised by this, but he did not think too much about it. He continued, "We're here to discuss some matters today. I don't want to be disturbed by anyone. Prepare the delicacies and wine first. No one is allowed to enter the private room in the future." "Yes, my lord." "No problem." Wei Yan nodded and asked politely, "Do you have any other orders?" "No." "Go and order someone to set it up." Knight Sorrow said. He was going to give Feng Xiaoyun and the others a surprise today. He did not want to alert Mingyi and prevent him from bringing him into the Zhenyuan Divine Lord's cave residence. "Yes, my lord." Wei Yan will take her leave. Wei Yan, who walked out of the private room, was a little curious. She felt that Knight Sorrow was too calm. Overnight, there was a rumor in High Base City that Knight Sorrow would apologize to the leader of the Jubao Pavilion at the Drunken Immortal Inn and compensate him with the forbidden divine weapon. A lower feather god should not be so calm in such a situation. Could it be that he, a lower feather god, has the strength to fight against a lower high god? Wei Yan knew that it was impossible for Mingyi to help Yishang. She secretly guessed a possibility, but she shook her head. She then ordered her subordinates to complete the task Yi Shang had given her and walked into a secret room in the basement of the Drunken Immortal Inn. Chapter 2475. On the other side, Knight Sorrow walked into the space arranged by the Drunken Immortal House and felt very satisfied. It was an independent space similar to a small world. There was a green mountain and a pavilion with a dining table at the foot of the mountain by the lake. At noon, Feng Xiaoyun of the Jubao Pavilion did not arrive on time. Knight Sorrow was already mentally prepared for this. He sat at the table and enjoyed the wine and delicacies leisurely. Time passed quickly and it was evening in the blink of an eye. At this moment, Feng Xiaoyun, the sect master of the treasure-gathering pavilion, arrived with his two vice-sect masters, Yan Jiang and Qi Yanshan, as well as the deacon Long Zhou. Everyone is here. Knight Sorrow, who had just taken a sip of wine, greeted the four of them calmly. He had no intention of getting up. What do you mean? Seeing Knight Sorrow's casual look, Feng Xiaoyun's face immediately turned cold and a powerful aura erupted from his body. Originally, he agreed to give Knight Sorrow a chance to apologize to Mingyi because he wanted to give face to him. Now Knight Sorrow did not seem to take him seriously at all and did not look like he was apologizing at all. Feng Xiaoyun was very unhappy and scolded coldly, "I've already given face to Mingyi by coming here. You aunt, do you really think that I won't dare to touch you because Mingyi has interceded for you?" Yan Jiang, Qi Yanshan, and Long Zhou, who were standing behind Feng Xiaoyun, were also very angry. They felt that Knight Sorrow was too good at pretending. However, now that Feng Xiaoyun was speaking, they did not dare to interrupt. "Then what do you think I should do? Kneel on the ground and beg for forgiveness and welcome the arrival of the exalted god? Or hand over the divine weapon, the Samsara halberd?" Knight Sorrow did not get up and took another sip of wine. He did not have a good impression of the people of the Jubao Pavilion. How could he apologize to them? He had arranged to meet here because he did not want to make too much noise and affect the trip to the cave abode of the immortal Lord Jinyuan. He had already faced a divine lord, how could he be afraid of a mere lower exalted god? How dare you? How dare you offend the exalted god? He really doesn't know the difference between life and death. Seeing that Knight Sorrow didn't even put Feng Xiaoyun in his eyes, which was completely different from what he had imagined, Long Zhou immediately scolded. In his heart, the exalted god was not to be offended. Anyone who offended him was courting death. "Since you're here, I won't beat around the bush." Knight Sorrow paid no attention to Long Zhou at all, and he gazed at Feng Xiaoyun and said, "Last time, all of you targeted me because Long Zhou took liberties with number 73, and then I destroyed your treasure-gathering pavilion. So, we're even now, and I won't pursue the matter any further. But in the year that I was away, you tortured my two friends in every possible way. This matter needs to be resolved today. If you don't give me a satisfactory answer, then I'll get the answer myself." Ha ha ha. Did I hear wrongly? Instead of handing over the taboo divine artifact and kowtowing to admit your mistake, you want my treasure-gathering pavilion to give you an explanation. Hearing Knight Sorrow's words, Feng Xiaoyun laughed instead of getting angry. A lower divine feather realm cultivator dared to provoke him, a true exalted god. The sun must have risen from the west. After reaching the exalted god level, Feng Xiaoyun was revered as a god wherever he went. He was regarded as one of the local tyrants of Haibei City. Now that he had been slapped in the face, he was so angry that his nose was about to become crooked. The three people standing behind Feng Xiaoyun were also very angry, but they were no match for Knight Sorrow. They could only stare at him. "Yes, what you heard is right. What I mean is, I want your treasure-gathering pavilion to give my friends an explanation. Otherwise, you can't be a local tyrant anymore." At this time, Knight Sorrow slowly stood up. He could feel that his opponent's fighting spirit had completely risen, and he was ready to attack. "Good. Very good. A lower divine feather realm cultivator dares to challenge me, Feng Xiaoyun. I admire your courage. Since that's the case, die. Feng Xiaoyun sneered. He gathered divine origin energy in his left hand and grabbed Night Sorrow. He wanted to subdue him and torture him. This grab seemed simple, but it contained the laws of the exalted gods. Most divine feather realm cultivators would not be able to escape. Vanishing shadow void escape. The green phoenix armor could withstand this grab, but Night Sorrow wanted to test the effect of the spatial movement technique. He directly used the vanishing shadow void escape and disappeared into the void. This time, Feng Xiaoyun grabbed the air. You actually managed to dodge my attack. Feng Xiaoyun clearly hadn't expected Yi Shang to be able to dodge his attack so easily. He was stunned for a moment before he blasted out a giant hand imprint of divine essence towards the void, shattering the void where Yi Shang had just been. You exalted god, you're a bit weak. At this time, Night Sorrow appeared 100 meters in front of Feng Xiaoyun. Using the strength of his body, he threw a punch at Feng Xiaoyun. Night Sorrow did not use any secret techniques for this punch. It was just his physical strength and speed. A mere divine feather realm cultivator dares to appear within 100 meters of me. For an immortal state cultivator, 10 million meters was a distance that could be covered in the blink of an eye. 100 meters was no different from face to face. Seeing Night Sorrow's punch without any energy fluctuations, Feng Xiaoyun sneered and gathered divine origin energy in his right hand. He turned his palm into a fist and punched out. This punch contained divine origin energy. It was not only the strength of his body, but also the strength of an exalted god. Boom! Feng Xiaoyun's attack was completely blocked by the green phoenix armor. It did not have any effect at all. Feng Xiaoyun, who felt that victory was in his grasp, thought that he would be able to send Night Sorrow flying with his punch. He did not defend himself at all and was punched in the chest. Although his divine origin energy automatically protected his body, he was still sent flying. Although Night Sorrow's physique refinement realm was only at the level of an intermediate divine feather realm cultivator, his body was definitely at the level of an exalted god. What's going on? Yan Jiang, Qi Yanshan, and Long Jiao were all dumbfounded. In their eyes, exalted gods were invincible and could not be challenged. However, Night Sorrow, a lower divine feather realm cultivator, sent Feng Xiaoyun flying with just his physical strength. This made them feel like their brains were about to explode. They were all stunned on the spot. They wanted to help Feng Xiaoyun but did not dare to. It seems that you have hidden your strength. You are not a divine feather realm cultivator. No wonder you dare to be so arrogant in front of me. Feng Xiaoyun stood up from the ground. His face was so dark that it could drip water. I was careless and fell into your trap. This will not happen twice. Die. This time, Feng Xiaoyun gathered his divine origin energy and prepared his defense. He also took out an exalted god-level long sword from his spatial artifact and attacked Night Sorrow with a sword technique. Just in time. Feng Xiaoyun's sword turned into thousands of swords in an instant and shot towards Night Sorrow from all directions. This attack was similar to the thousands of swords that shot out from the black sword box. However, after reaching the level of an exalted god, its power was even greater. Chapter 2476. Feng Xiaoyun had just become a high god and had yet to consolidate his cultivation. His strength was much weaker than Night Sorrow had imagined. An opponent of such strength could not even be used to train Night Sorrow's combat skills. His only use was to test the strength of his body with sword moves, which was why he had put away the green phoenix armor. Clang, clang, clang. 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 Night Sorrow's body did not even have a single wound. How is this possible? How strong is he? Feng Xiaoyun, who had witnessed all of this, was immediately dumbfounded. He did not know what to do. This was because this move was already his signature move. Now we can talk about compensation. If Knight Sorrow wanted to kill Feng Xiaoyun, he could do it in an instant. However, he did not make a move. Instead, he sat back down at the table. Feng Xiaoyun was momentarily speechless. He had originally come to accept an apology, but now his position had been reversed. At this point, he was very sure that Knight Sorrow could kill him in an instant. Since you don't want to say it, I'll say it for you. Knight Sorrow did not kill anyone because he was the virtuous feather god and did not want to add unnecessary killing. However, the people of Jubao Pavilion had bullied Xian Jizi and Neopodian so badly that this matter could not be forgotten. He said word by word, compensate my two friends with Jubao Pavilion. What? Compensate the entire Jubao Pavilion? Impossible, absolutely impossible. Feng Xiaoyun immediately refused when he heard Knight Sorrow's words. However, just as he refused, he explained, Jubao Pavilion belongs to me on the surface, but in reality, it belongs to the Enning Hall Master, Ling Xiaoye. I'm his man. Are you the one who signed the contract with Jubao Pavilion? Knight Sorrow did not pay much attention to Ling Xiaoye's name when he heard it. Ling Xiaoye was one of the 5 high gods of Haibei City, a veteran powerhouse. However, he could not change his decision. He had asked for Jubao Pavilion for Xian Jizi and Neopodian. No one would be able to stop this. It's me. Feng Xiaoyun answered honestly. It's fine as long as it's you. Now, give me the contract of Jubao Pavilion. Knight Sorrow ordered. Feng Xiaoyun knew that if he didn't hand over the treasure-gathering pavilion's contract, he would definitely be killed immediately. He had no choice but to hand over the contract. In the next few years, help me manage the Jubao Pavilion. When the time is right, I will send someone to take it over. As for what happened today, swear that you won't say a word about it. Otherwise, I'll kill you one by one. Jubao Pavilion's Knight Sorrow was definitely going to be there. However, he would soon enter the Zhenyuan Divine Lord's cave abode. He was afraid that coming over would expose his strength. When he had just arrived at Seaside City, Knight Sorrow had, after all, received the favor of the Styx. He did not want to use force to suppress and threaten the other party to let him enter the Zhenyuan Divine Lord's abode. That would not be in line with his principles. There's one more thing I need you to do. Help me sell some god artifacts and exchange them for god crystals or cultivation resources. Knight Sorrow took out a spatial magic tool and tossed it to Feng Xiaoyun before leaving the Drunken Immortal building. He needed a large amount of god crystals and cultivation resources to raise his cultivation. However, he did not have much time because he had to return to the Night Moon Island as soon as possible. He dealt with the matter so quickly and left unscathed. This Knight Sorrow is indeed strange. Seeing Knight Sorrow leave the Drunken Immortal building, the person in charge of the Drunken Immortal building, Wei Yan, revealed a playful smile. Soon after, she saw Feng Xiaoyun and the others leave the Drunken Immortal building with unhappy expressions. This confirmed some of her guesses, so she entered the secret room again. She said to the Black Shadow, "Inform the elders of the Dark Alliance that they have discovered a mysterious genius and need to pay attention to him immediately. Otherwise, he might be snatched away by someone else in the future." Knight Sorrow naturally did not know about this. On the way back, Knight Sorrow told Yuan Xianro to help Neopodian manage the Jubao Pavilion in the future. Yuan Xianro agreed nervously. She wanted to do it well, but she was afraid that she was not capable enough. After arriving at the mansion, Knight Sorrow stayed with everyone for a day. Then, he left High Base City and returned to the Night Moon Island. At this moment, the Night Moon Island was very peaceful. the situation that Night Sorrow was worried about did not happen. Moreover, there was good news coming out of the Night Moon Island recently. Night Sorrow and Lin Piamiao's son, Yi Shaokei, had successfully passed the god-destroying tribulation a few days ago and entered the Divine Feather Realm. He became the first Divine Feather Realm other than Night Sorrow in the Night Moon Dynasty. Shaokei, very good. The others also need to work hard to cultivate. In the Divine Realm, only those who have broken through to the Divine Realm can barely protect themselves. After gathering the clansmen, Night Sorrow patted Yi Shaok's shoulder and said. He continued, I gathered everyone here today to inform everyone that there might be a battle around High Base City in the near future. Night Moon Island is likely to be implicated. I will arrange for everyone to move to High Base City. Now that Night Sorrow was in High Base City, he had enough strength to fight against anyone. Moreover, Jing Yun was around recently. Therefore, he felt more at ease bringing the clansmen to the city. Hearing that they were about to move from the remote and deserted island to the bustling High Base City, everyone in the Night Moon Dynasty was a little excited and started discussing. At this moment, Yi Shaokei, who had just broken through to the Divine Feather Realm, looked at Night Sorrow and said, Father, I want to leave the clan and find a sect to learn from. Please allow me. Have you thought about this? Now that I have a lot of cultivation resources in my hands, your strength will increase very quickly if you stay in the clan. Looking at Yi Shaokei in front of him, Night Sorrow's brows revealed a trace of relief. Now, his youngest son had already grown up. Father, I want to find my own opportunities. I don't want to rely on your glory forever. Yi Shaok's brows were very firm. Good, you have ambition. After arriving at High Base City and seeing Mother, you can leave to find a suitable sect to join. However, there are no strong sects around High Base City. If you want to learn from a master, you may have to travel very far. You must pay attention to your safety. Night Sorrow instructed. He chose to support his son's ambition. However, he would definitely prepare some resources before he left. Yes, Father. After Yi Shaokei advanced to the Divine Feather Realm, he was much more mature. After that, the clansmen began to pack up. Night Sorrow, Sikong Chuyu, Yang Lei, Aoi, Shueshi, and Datura drank tea together and enjoyed the long-awaited peace. After the clansmen packed up, Night Sorrow kept them all in the Clear Sky Pagoda and brought them back to High Base City. After returning to High Base City, Night Sorrow asked Feng Xiaoyun to secretly help him buy a mansion that occupied a large area. It was the size of a small city, and he settled all the clansmen in. Then, he found Jing Yun and the others and asked Jing Yun to help him take care of his family for the time being. He then prepared to enter the Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave. Last time, he had snatched a few divine-level pill recipes from the Jubao Pavilion. Night Sorrow was prepared to refine them properly and improve his alchemy skills. He had already heard some things about the Jinyuan Divine Lord from Mo Qianqian. Chapter 2477. Night Sorrow had obtained several divine-level elixir recipes from the Jubao Pavilion. They were all of the Feather God level. It was not difficult for him to refine elixirs of this level. In less than a month, he had refined all the elixirs and obtained 6 types of extremely high-grade Feather God level elixirs. Everything was easier than he had imagined. Night Sorrow knew that this was due to the increase in his divine soul power. With the support of his powerful divine soul power, it was much easier for him to refine elixirs, forge weapons, and set up formations. After that, Night Sorrow used the materials he had obtained from the Endless Bone region to set up a divine-level defensive formation for his newly purchased residence. Cultivators at the Feather God realm couldn't break through this defensive formation. Even an exalted god would have to go through a lot of trouble to break it, and Yi Shan would be alerted. However, if he entered Jinyuan Divine Lord's residence, he might not be able to sense him. After completing all this, Night Sorrow distributed the resources he had obtained from the Endless Bone region to Jing Yun, Zhu Yunxia, Ho Lai, and Geng Qin. Now that he was short on time, he did not refine any divine weapons or defensive treasures for them. In the following months, Night Sorrow entered the Clear Sky Pagoda to absorb divine crystals. As a result, his cultivation increased rapidly. He was not far from becoming a mid-level feather god. While waiting for Styx's notice, Night Sorrow would take his friends and wives to drink tea and relax. When he had nothing to do, he would also guide his clansmen in their cultivation. Jing Yun, Zhu Yunxia, and Ho Lai were all old people in the god realm. They had no problem guiding others in their cultivation. Xian Jizi, who had received Jing Yun's guidance, suddenly had an epiphany. He should be able to break through from a mid-level feather god to a high-level high god soon. Neopodian did not have any talent in cultivation. Night Sorrow sent him to the Jubao Pavilion to learn management experience. Yuan Xianro, who had been cultivating in the Clear Sky Pagoda, was also released to cultivate with Night Moon's clansmen. At the same time, Geng Qin, who had something to do, left alone. A few days after he left, Night Moon's dynasty produced 2 feather gods in one day. They were Night Sorrow's wife, Datura, and his son, Yilingxi. Yi Xiaoluo's accident was a huge blow to his mother, Datura. She cultivated crazily and finally achieved something. After that day, Night Sorrow brought Datura to see his son, Datura. Then, he brought Yi Linghuan, Lin Piaomiao, and Yi Xiaoluo back to the Yi family's new mansion and held a celebratory banquet for Datura and Yilingxi. Jing Yun, Zhu Yunxia, Ho Lai, Xian Jizi, Neopodian, and the others were very envious of the happy family. Now, they were basically all alone. However, the people of the Night Moon dynasty were good at socializing, and they quickly integrated into the big family without any barriers. Everything was developing in a good way. However, when the agreed time came, Mingi sent someone to inform Night Sorrow that there were some accidents in the Zhenyuan Divine Lord's cave residence, and they had to delay their entry to 2 years later. Night Sorrow was a little surprised when he heard this news, but he didn't ask much. He felt that since he had time, he might as well go to Langqi Mountain and check on Mo Youqian's family situation. Anyway, it was just to check on the news. It wouldn't take long for him to find out the results and go to the Endless Bone region to tell him about the situation. On this day, Night Sorrow told his family and friends that he was going to go to Langqi Mountain alone. However, Jing Yun immediately stood up and said, "I want to go to Langqi Mountain too." Jing Yun, what's wrong? You don't look right. Night Sorrow immediately asked when he saw that Jing Yun didn't look too good. Some of the enemies who destroyed my family came from Langqi Mountain. I want to check on their strength. If they aren't strong, I'll take revenge for my family. If they are much stronger than me, I'll go to my sect to improve my cultivation. Jing Yun's face was filled with killing intent caused by hatred. Her family wasn't weak and even had a senior ancestor who was at the Divine Emperor level. However, it was suddenly destroyed and only she and Jing Hong escaped the disaster. The people who destroyed her family didn't belong to just one family. One of them was the Shangguan family of Langqi Mountain. Now, Jing Yun wanted to check on the Shangguan family's current strength before making her next plan. No wonder your expression changed when you heard about Langqi Mountain in the sky reaching pagoda that day. Since that's the case, let's go together. If there's a chance, I'll help you take revenge. Night Sorrow nodded and said goodbye to Sikong Chuyu and his other wives before leaving the mansion with Jing Yun. Following behind Night Sorrow and looking at his back, Jing Yun's expression was a little complicated. Some of the experiences in the Endless Bone region made her have some feelings for Night Sorrow. However, after coming to High Base City, she met Night Sorrow's wives and got along very well with them. Therefore, she silently suppressed all the feelings related to romance. Her personality was as gentle as water and she didn't like to rob others of their happiness. There's a town ahead. Let's go down and inquire about it. The distance of 1,000,000 miles was nothing for Night Sorrow and Jing Yun. 2 days later, they flew to the foot of Langqi Mountain. Seeing a medium-sized town 1,000 miles away, Night Sorrow said something to Jing Yun and flew down. Okay. At this time, Jing Yun's expression was a little complicated. She responded softly and followed him into the town. This town was not large and its area was less than 1% of High Base City. However, it was very lively and there were many Divine Realm practitioners. Yishang brought Jing Yun to the largest restaurant and ordered some dishes and wine at a table near the window on the second floor. After all the dishes were served, he rewarded the waiter with a divine crystal and said, "Brother, I want to ask you something. Is it convenient for you?" Of course, of course. Of course it's convenient. Sir, please go ahead. The waiter took the divine crystal and immediately nodded his head like a chick eating rice. To him, divine crystals were good things that could only be found by chance. Moreover, there were no other guests on the second floor at this time, so he was naturally willing to say a few more words. Have you heard of the Mo family? They once had an invincible divine lord in their family. They shouldn't be unknown. It had been a long time since Mo Yuqian attacked the Dark Region. Night Sorrow wasn't sure what the Mo family was like now, so he asked vaguely. The Mo family? An invincible divine lord. There doesn't seem to be such a family in Langqi Mountain. Even if there was, it should have declined. The waiter lowered his head and thought for a while before shaking his head and replying. Then he added, there are a total of 3 large families in Langqi Mountain that have divine lords. The Shengguan family, the Murong family, and the Ling family. Brothers Mo family seems to have declined. That was true. After several reincarnations, anything could happen. It seems that it's not easy to find out about the Mo family. Hearing the waiter's words, Night Sorrow felt a little sad for Mo Yuqian. If Mo Yuqian hadn't gone to the Dark Region back then, with his invincible divine lord strength, he would probably have become a divine king. Chapter 2478. Shengguan Clan, Murong Clan, and Ling Clan. Do these clans all have monarchs? Jing Yun, who had been silent all this while, immediately asked after hearing the servant's words. She originally thought that since High Base City had declined, Langqi Mountain, which was attached to it, might have declined as well. She didn't expect that there would be 3 big clans with monarchs here. And one of them was the Shengguan clan, which had a grudge against her. This made her angry. The Shengguan clan was tyrannical, which meant that it wouldn't be easy for her to take revenge. Reporting to the esteemed guest. The 3 big clans do have monarchs. This is something that everyone in Langqi Mountain knows. And it seems that the 3 big clans have more than one monarchs. I heard that recently, an invincible feather god appeared in the Shengguan clan. He successfully defeated the master ranked 97th on the feather god list and entered the feather god list, the servant said with a trace of reverence. The Shengguan clan, Murong clan, and Ling clan were undoubtedly the 3 giants in Langqi Mountain. Even when discussing, most people would use a respectful tone, afraid that they would accidentally offend the 3 big clans and end up being exterminated. A feather god ranked in the top 100 of the feather god list. This is interesting. What's the name of the invincible feather god of the Shengguan clan? Among the feather gods or even high gods that they met in High Base City, none of them were talented. Hearing that there was an invincible feather god in the Shengguan clan, Night Sorrow asked with interest. His name is Shengguan High. I heard that he can defeat high gods. It said that he will return to Langqi Mountain soon. You're just a servant. How dare you talk about young Master High of the Shengguan clan? While the servant was talking, a reprimand suddenly came from the stairs. Then, 2 men and 2 women walked up the stairs. Hearing the reprimand, the servant was so scared that his face changed. He hurriedly ran over and bowed to apologize. Master Lei, I just admire young Master Hai's deeds, so I helped to spread the news. I didn't offend you verbally. Please forgive this lowly one, Your Excellency. The leading male cultivator was called Shengguan Lei. He was an upper-level feather god and a disciple of the collateral branch of the Shengguan clan. He was a famous playboy in the town. He was very arrogant and would kill people if he was unhappy. The manservant obviously knew Shengguan Lei. After bowing and apologizing, he knelt on the ground and kowtowed to Shengguan Lei. Damn it! My family's young Master Hai ascended to the feather god list and received a reward from the divine king Wuaxin. Who in the entire divine realm doesn't know of this? Is there a need for an errand boy like you to do publicity? Shengguan Lei raised his foot and stomped on the manservant's head. Shengguan Lei was an upper-level feather god. The manservant's talent for cultivation was very low. He was far from the divine realm. When Shengguan Lei stepped on his head, the manservant immediately cried out in pain. The voice sounded like it was in extreme pain, and it was different from a human's voice. This made Shengguan Lei and the other 3 burst into laughter. Brother Lei, don't trample this servant to death. I want to enjoy some fresh blood. One of the red-robed female cultivators licked her lips. She was from the Fox clan and had the habit of drinking fresh blood. Spare people when possible. You've gone too far. If these people were allowed to continue, the manservant would definitely be tortured to death. Knight Sorrow directly reached out and grabbed him to his side. Who are you? How dare you meddle in the business of the Shengguan clan? Shengguan Lei's horse-like face was instantly attracted by Jing Yun's appearance when he saw Yi Shang and Jing Yun. With a wretched look, he said, "This beauty, are you married? If not, why don't you marry me and be my concubine? If there is a marriage, Shengguan Lei can help you beat the other party to death. The Shengguan clan is the top clan in Langqi Mountain. If you marry into our clan, you will be taken care of. Think about it carefully." Knight Sorrow's cultivation seemed to be at the lower level of Feather God. Shengguan Lei, who didn't see through Jing Yun, thought that she might have practiced a cultivation technique to conceal her cultivation. Her strength should be about the same as Knight Sorrow's, so he dared to flirt with her. "You're courting death." Jing Yun, who had heard that they were from the Shengguan clan, had long wanted to attack them. When she heard Shengguan Lei's words, she immediately became furious and slapped them. Now, she had the strength of an invincible deity and could even challenge some weaker divine emperors. She slapped the 4 of them to death in anger. However, there was no sound on the 2nd floor. Ah! This. Seeing that Jing Yun had slapped the 4 people into ashes and even shattered their divine souls, the manservant was so scared that he couldn't even speak. Knight Sorrow took out an elixir and threw it to the manservant, asking him to take it to heal his injuries. Then he said, "Don't be afraid. Continue to tell me what you know." Knight Sorrow was a little surprised that Jing Yun suddenly attacked so heavily. However, he knew that it was related to the family feud, so he didn't say anything. Jing Yun's entire family had been slaughtered by the Shengguan clan and other clans. Now, she killed some of the scum of the Shengguan clan, which could be regarded as revenge. "Yes, Your Excellency. I will tell you everything I know." The manservant, who had survived, knelt down to Jing Yun and began to talk about the specific situation of Langqi Mountain. Now, there was a main city in Langqi Mountain called the ancient city of Langqi. It was located at the peak of Langqi Mountain and the 3 big clans ruled the city. In addition, there were 4 acropolises located in the north, south, east, and west of Langqi Mountain. The names of these 4 acropolises were very simple. They were called East City, West City, South City, and North City. They were all attached to the ancient city of Langqi. However, they had developed until now, and both the scale and the strength of the cultivators had surpassed High Base City. Originally, Langqi Mountain was only an attached area of High Base City. Now, even the acropolises of the ancient city of Langqi have surpassed High Base City. What's going on? After the manservant finished speaking, Jing Yun immediately frowned and muttered. She had spent countless years in the Endless Bone Realm. After returning, she found that the surrounding environment had changed greatly. The original center of the city, High Base City, had declined, while the other areas had developed. Are you two cultivators from High Base City? Hearing Jing Yun's words, the manservant's face immediately changed. We are from High Base City. Why do you look like you've seen a ghost when you heard this name? Seeing the manservant's reaction, Knight Sorrow reprimanded him angrily. My lord, everyone in Langqi Mountain knows that as long as a talented cultivator in High Base City approaches the High God Realm, they will be captured by the big clans and imprisoned. Given how powerful this lady was, could it be that she had managed to escape after being imprisoned? If that's the case, you'd better escape quickly. Otherwise, in a while, there will definitely be experts from the big clans chasing after you. The manservant said with a nervous expression. He knew the strength of Shangguan Lei and the others. They were all at the High God Realm, but Jing Yun was able to slap the four of them into ashes. Her strength should be at least at the High God Realm. There's such a thing. That means that if the cultivators of High Base City are talented and chosen and taken away, not only will they not have the chance to become stronger, but they will also be completely imprisoned. No wonder High Base City has become weaker and weaker. Chapter 2479. At this moment, Knight Sorrow recalled that among the 5 high gods of High Base City, the city lord was called Shengguan Yun, the Umbra Hall master was called Ling Xiaoya, and the Wuji Pavilion master was called Murong Yuan. Now, it seemed that the 3 of them were most likely sent to High Base City by the major clans. Their goal was naturally to control High Base City and capture and imprison any talented cultivators they found. Even the servants in the restaurants of Langqi Mountain knew that the cultivators of High Base City were being targeted, but almost no one in High Base City knew about it. There was definitely someone deliberately controlling it. How much hatred and resentment do these clans have with High Base City that they would do such an inhumane thing? Do you know the reason behind it? Mo Yuqian, Divine Lord Jin Yuan, and A.O. Fang, the 3 invincible divine lords, had sacrificed themselves to protect High Base City, but now it was being targeted like this. This made Knight Sorrow very unhappy, so he stared at the servant and asked. I heard that it seems to be related to Wu Axayan, the Divine King, but I haven't heard the details. The servant nodded and explained. He had been serving tea in the restaurant for 100,000 years, so he naturally heard a lot of things, but he wasn't sure if it was true or false. If this is really because of Wu Axayan, then he's really a good-for-nothing. Knight Sorrow couldn't help but curse. Back then, Mo Yuqian, A.O. Fang, and Divine Lord Jin Yuan had brought the most important resources of High Base City to battle. In the end, most of these opportunities were obtained by Wu Axayan, who had almost used up the resources of a city before he became the Divine King. If he was really targeting High Base City, then he was simply worse than a beast. Sir, you can't insult the Divine King. A big shot like the Divine King has a lot of luck. If you offend him, the consequences will be unimaginable. Even if you insult him behind his back, it's still very dangerous. The servant had heard a lot of things over the years, so he immediately advised Knight Sorrow. If Wu Axayan is really that kind of villain, then I don't mind personally taking away his luck in the future. Thinking about the various things that happened in High Base City, Knight Sorrow felt that what the servant said was very likely right. If the decline of High Base City is really related to Wu Axayan, then he's really too much. If this is true, what should we do? Jing Yun's heart was also very uneasy. Let's go to the citadel of Langqi City in a while and ask about the Mo clan. Then, we'll check if this matter is true. If it's true, we'll think of a way to rescue the imprisoned cultivators. High Base City, which was reclaimed with the lives of our predecessors, is not a place for sluts to trample on as they wish. Knight Sorrow drank a mouthful of wine. Originally, he came to investigate the matter of the Mo family, but unexpectedly, he learned such a shocking truth. How could he remain calm? All right, that's the only way. Let's go to the 4 great citadels first. If we can't find anything, we'll go straight to the peak of Langqi Mountain. Jing Yun's face was also filled with anger. At this moment, Knight Sorrow waved his hand and erased the servant's memory. Then, together with Jing Yun, they immediately left the town and flew towards the west side of the city. The west side of the city was built halfway up Langqi Mountain. A large part of it was suspended in the air. Many of the buildings were floating in the clouds, somewhat similar to the city in the sky. After arriving at the west side of the city, Knight Sorrow and Jing Yun, who had changed their appearance and aura, did not go to the restaurant to inquire about information. Instead, they walked into a shop called Dark Tower and prepared to spend divine crystals to buy information. Although this Dark Tower was not in Langqi City, it was near Langqi Mountain and had the most up-to-date information. 2 lords, welcome. As soon as Knight Sorrow and Jing Yun walked into Dark Tower, a white-bearded old man who looked like a shopkeeper immediately stood up and greeted them with a smile. I heard that as long as you pay enough divine crystals, you can buy any information here. After being greeted by the shopkeeper, Knight Sorrow sat on an armchair and took a sip of the tea served by the waiter. Not to the extent of having any information. After all, the realm of the gods is too big. Many super experts have gone there and can't be investigated. However, the information about the Wu Axian divine realm is not far from the truth. The old man stroked his beard and said confidently. Since you are so confident, could it be that you are from the 3 big families? The old man was very confident. Knight Sorrow asked a probing question. If the other party was from the 3 big families, then his question might cause a big disturbance. Dark Tower has nothing to do with the 3 big families. The old man shook his head and said, Customer, you have asked 2 questions. Continue to ask questions. I will charge according to the difficulty of the questions. Okay. In that case, I will start to ask questions. Knight Sorrow originally thought that Dark Tower would take him and Jing Yun to a secret room to make the deal. He did not expect the other party to be so direct. He thought for a while and asked, is the Mo family, which had an invincible divine emperor, still in existence? I can answer this question, but I will charge you 30,000 divine crystals. The old man smiled and asked, do you choose to pay 30,000 divine crystals for information? Here are 30,000 divine crystals. Take them. Knight Sorrow did not hesitate. He took out 30,000 divine crystals from his spatial device and handed it to the old man. If I am not wrong, the invincible divine emperor you are talking about is the golden body divine emperor, Mo Yuqian, right? The old man asked. Hearing this, Knight Sorrow immediately felt that he had asked the right person. He nodded and said, that's him. How is his family now? Sigh. They exist in name only. All the talented cultivators have been suppressed. What a pity. The old man sighed and told him about the current situation of the Mo family. The current Mo family was not completely destroyed, but there were less than 100 people left in the whole family. They lived in seclusion in the depths of Langqi Mountain. As long as a talented cultivator appeared in the family, he would immediately be taken away by the 3 big families and suppressed. Now, there were not even many divine realm cultivators in the family. Damn it! 3 big families, you are too much. Hearing this, Knight Sorrow took a sip of tea and calmed down. He continued to ask. The cultivators of High Base City were suppressed by the three big families. Is this related to the Wuxing Divine King? Hearing Knight Soro's question, the old man was stunned for a moment and then said, this matter involves the Divine King. It will cost you 300,000 divine crystals. 300,000 divine crystals? I don't have enough. Can I pay with divine weapons or elixirs? Knight Soro had basically used up all his divine crystals. He had less than 300,000 left. Just as the old man was about to answer, Jingyun took out a spatial device and handed it to the old man. Here are 300,000 divine crystals. Tell me the whole story. Okay. As long as there are divine crystals, everything is negotiable. The old man chuckled and said, the suppression of High Base City was caused by the Wuxing Divine King. When the Wuxing Divine King grew up, he received favors from several invincible divine lords in High Base City, but he did not complete the task they asked him to do. After becoming the Divine King, he deduced that he would suffer a calamity because of High Base City. Therefore, he has been suppressing High Base City for a long time. The three big families of Lungchi Mountain are all his trusted aides. He knew this matter like the back of his hand. So that's the case. Then do you know where the suppressed cultivators of High Base City are being held? Knight Soro continued to ask. After confirming the truth of the matter, he was ready to think of a way to rescue some of the cultivators of High Base City. They are all being held in the dungeon of Lungchi Ancient City under the personal watch of a divine lord. With the strength of the two of you, it's basically impossible to rescue them. The old man obviously saw through Knight Soro's thoughts. He suddenly lowered his voice and said, but if you join an organization, there is a chance to rescue the cultivators of High Base City. What organization? Chapter 2480. Why don't the two of you follow me inside for a chat? Knight Soro and Jingyun were clearly interested in this topic. The old man stood up and gestured for them to follow him. He hadn't even stood up when they were talking about the Divine King. Now that he was inviting them inside, it was clear that things weren't as simple as they seemed. All right, please lead the way. The old man appeared to be in the Divine Feather Realm, but Knight Soro could see that he was only a lesser high god. Although he wasn't weak, he wasn't much of a threat to him and Jingyun. The Dark Tower's defensive formation wasn't very advanced either. It could only isolate them from detection. Overall, it wasn't much of a threat. Knight Soro glanced at Jingyun, then followed the old man into the underground chamber. Let me introduce myself. I'm Zhuang He of the Dark Alliance. I'm a lesser high god and one of the 10 great elders of the Dark Alliance. The old man's aura expanded as soon as they entered the secret chamber. He unleashed the aura of a lesser high god. The aura was isolated by the chamber and didn't leak out. I'm sorry to embarrass myself. Zhuang He retracted his aura after showing off his strength. He knew that Jingyun was stronger than him. According to the Dark Alliance's information, Knight Soro wouldn't be too far off. Elder Zhuang He. You want me to join the Dark Alliance? Tell me what kind of organization the Dark Alliance is. Knight Soro looked around to make sure there was no ambush. He asked calmly. Jingyun stood behind him. She was wary of the old man, but she didn't leak any of her divine origin energy. To put it bluntly. The Dark Alliance is an alliance to stop Wuxing from harming the geniuses of High Base City. Since its establishment, it has secretly protected more than 100 geniuses in High Base City. Even the weakest of these geniuses are half-step high gods. More than 30 of them have become high gods. At this point, Zhuang He revealed a trace of a smile and said, actually, Yishang, you are also a target that my Dark Alliance has set their eyes on and is prepared to protect. You've been keeping a low profile in High Base City, so Wuxing hasn't noticed you yet. Once they do, they'll capture and imprison you. Me? How did you notice me? Night Sorrow felt that he had kept a low profile, but he didn't expect to be noticed. Speaking of which, our Dark Alliance's businesses are spread all over High Base City and Langqi Mountain. The Drunken Immortal restaurant where you met Feng Xiao Yun last time is one of our properties. The manager, Wei Yan, is my disciple. Zhuang He chuckled as he explained, I didn't expect that you would come knocking on my door right after I noticed you. That's why I'm telling you about the Heartless Divine King. That's information you can't buy with divine crystals. I want to know why you are protecting the genius cultivators of High Base City, and what is your motive for forming the Dark Alliance? Night Sorrow looked at Zhuang He. After all, nothing happened without a reason. If the motive was unclear, then there was definitely a problem. We protect the geniuses of High Base City for two reasons. First, we want to fight against the Heartless Divine King one day. Second, we want to accumulate talent so that we can protect High Base City in the future. When danger comes, High Base City won't have no one to rely on. Our Alliance Master, Ao Qingyun, is the son of the old city lord, Ao Fang. He doesn't want to see High Base City, which his father used his life to protect, be occupied by dark creatures one day. Zhuang He explained, and then said angrily, now that the Dark Murlocs are acting strangely, and there's also a problem with the Zhenyuan Divine Lord's cave, the soul-devouring beast will break through the suppression barrier at any time and return to High Base City. At that time, the Heartless Divine King's people will definitely not take action. We will have to fight to the death to protect High Base City. But if you fight to the death, even if you can protect High Base City, you will be exposed to the Heartless. Night Sorrow asked, but his heart was affected by the matter of the Zhenyuan Divine Lord's cave. Hearing Zhuang He's words, he understood that Mingyi had already caused an uproar in the city, and the Dark Alliance had already found out the truth. Even if we die in battle, the people of the Dark Alliance will not watch as High Base City falls. Zhuang He explained. It turned out that most of the elders of the Dark Alliance were Ao Fang's descendants or his former subordinates. They had deep feelings for High Base City. I admire your determination. Night Sorrow praised sincerely, then said, but the Zhenyuan Divine Lord's cave is very important to me. Can we talk about the situation there first? Of course. Zhuang He looked at Night Sorrow, then at Jingyun. Jingyun clearly had the strength of a high god, but she stood beside Night Sorrow without saying anything, as if he was the leader. Zhuang He couldn't figure out the relationship between the two. Seeing that Jingyun didn't say much, he continued to talk to Night Sorrow. Now, the entire Langqi Mountain knows about the Zhenyuan Divine Lord's cave. That Mingyi couldn't withstand the pressure and revealed the location of the cave. Now, 3 peerless feather gods have entered the cave to search for opportunities. Zhuang He sighed, alas. It's a pity that we only have one peerless feather god in the Dark Alliance, and he's only ranked 100th on the feather god list. He's no match for the other 3 peerless feather gods. Even if he goes in, he'll be courting death. There's such a thing. How strong are the other 3 peerless feather gods? Hearing this, Night Sorrow couldn't sit still anymore. It turned out that Mingyi wasn't delaying the trip to the Zhenyuan Divine Lord's cave. He was kicked out. Saying that there was a delay of 2 years was just an excuse. The peerless feather gods of Wuxin's faction had already entered, but he was still waiting here like an idiot. He had made an agreement with Long Tianqing to find the letter left behind by the Zhenyuan Divine Lord. Now that there was an accident, how could Night Sorrow, who was anxious to save his family, not be anxious? Those 3 peerless feather gods are the strongest of the feather god realm in the Wuxin divine realm. They have the strength to kill high gods, but no one knows their true strength. They're ranked 47th, 76th, and 97th on the feather god list. Zhuang He knew that Night Sorrow was the virtuous feather god. He was very confident in Night Sorrow's character, so he didn't hold anything back. The other party was frank and open. He didn't hide anything when he talked about it. This left a good impression on Night Sorrow. He felt that even if he didn't join the Dark Alliance, he could still work with this organization and help each other. So he said, "Why don't I work with the Dark Alliance's peerless feather gods and enter the Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave together? With me there, they won't succeed so easily." Night Sorrow was very confident in his own strength. The top 100 feather gods of the Divine Realm were all true geniuses. He hadn't encountered such true geniuses since coming to the Divine Realm, but he wasn't afraid at all. Work together. That's fine. Zhuang He heard what Night Sorrow meant. He wouldn't immediately join the Dark Alliance, but would form an alliance with them. Knowing that Night Sorrow had the strength to fight high gods, Zhuang He thought that with him joining, there might be a chance to turn things around. After all, the Jinyuan Divine Lord's most important inheritance was a cultivation technique that could strengthen the soul. This was something that could only be found by chance in the Divine Realm. Chapter 2481. Since the other party agreed to cooperate, Night Sorrow quickly asked, "The invincible feather god ranked 97th is called Shengwan Hai. I heard about that. What are the other two called? What are their characteristics?" Hearing Night Sorrow's question, Zhuang He organized his words and explained, "The one ranked 76th is called Lang Ningxin. She's a human female cultivator and is good at ice attacks and defense. The one ranked 47th is called Ji Hao. I don't know what his true form is, but he's definitely not a human cultivator. His body is very strong and he's good at close combat. The strongest one is good at refining his body. I don't know if it's related to Wuxin." Hearing this, Night Sorrow continued, "There's no time to lose. Hurry up and contact your people. We'll enter Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave together. To be honest, I was asked to look for Jinyuan Divine Lord's letter. If I can find it, I'll owe the Dark Alliance a favor and I'll definitely repay it in the future. Okay. I hope this is the beginning of our fighting side by side. This is our first cooperation. Other than the letter, you and the Dark Pavilion will split the rest equally. How about that?" Night Sorrow's body was as strong as a dragon. He didn't deliberately hide it and gave Zhuang He some confidence. Seeing that Night Sorrow's body was as strong as a supreme god, Zhuang He politely proposed the distribution method. Hearing this, Night Sorrow understood that the Dark Pavilion would definitely send a lot of people this time. He said casually, "I'm determined to get Jinyuan Divine Lord's letter. As for the rest, the Dark Pavilion can do as you see fit." "Okay, then it's decided." Zhuang He nodded with satisfaction. He left the voice transmission stone and called a servant to take Night Sorrow and Jing Yun to another courtyard to rest. He then went to contact the Dark Alliance. They were ready to set off immediately and go straight to Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave. Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave had been open for decades, but those who entered were all inferior feather gods. This time, 3 invincible feather gods entered. This way, the opportunity might be lost. Zhuang He was very anxious. After the servant arranged a courtyard for Night Sorrow and Jing Yun, he ordered someone to bring food and wine. Sitting at the table, Night Sorrow looked at Jing Yun and said with a smile, "You're much stronger than me, but you've been so quiet that I feel embarrassed." Hee, it's nothing. I'm not a talkative person." Jing Yun smiled and raised her wine cup. "Let's have a drink. Take it as me supporting you on your journey. I hope you can find God Jinyuan's letter and bring it back to save your family." Now that Jing Yun was alone, she envied Night Sorrow for being able to fight for his family. "Alright, I'll count on your auspicious words then." Night Sorrow picked up the wine cup and drained it in one gulp. Then he asked, "I don't know how many years I will stay in Jinyuan's Immortal's cave. Are you going to stay in High Base City or go out to find your master?" The Shengguan clan was very powerful and they had more than one Sir God. Night Sorrow knew that with Jing Yun's current strength, it would be very difficult for her to take revenge. I feel that after you leave, your family will immediately become too weak to withstand a gust of wind. So while you're away, I'll stay in High Base City and protect your family. Jing Yun said with a smile, and then drank the wine in the cup. How can I accept that? It will delay your time of revenge. Hearing Jing Yun's words, Night Sorrow felt a surge of warmth in his heart, but he hurriedly refused. As for his family, he actually had plans to hide them all in the Endless Bone Realm. After all, it was safe there for now. It's okay. At most, you can help me take revenge after you come out. Jing Yun said softly. Then she asked, "It's settled then?" "Oh right, how long have you been stuck at the lower high god level? I see that you're very strong in other aspects, but your cultivation is pitifully weak. It's a little unbalanced." "It's a little unbalanced, but there's nothing I can do for now. Just absorbing divine crystals is too slow. It's not enough to support me until I reach the middle feather god level." His cultivation, the strength of his body, the strength of his soul, and the strength of his power of merit were indeed very unbalanced when compared to Yi Qin. But this was related to the characteristics of the Endless Bone Realm. There was nothing he could do. You're about to face the super powerhouses of the feather god level. They might be even more difficult to deal with than ordinary high gods. Jing Yun said as she looked at Night Sorrow. Then she took out an item from her spatial artifact and handed it to Night Sorrow. This is the 9 Nether Phoenix Orchid. It's thousands of times more effective than divine crystals. Enter the accelerated space and see if it can help you reach the middle feather god level. Jing Yun knew that Night Sorrow's power of virtue could stimulate his cultivation. He could cultivate from the lower feather god level to the middle feather god level without encountering any bottlenecks. All he had to do was absorb all the energy. No, this is too valuable. I can't accept it. Night Sorrow knew that the 9 Nether Phoenix Orchid that Jing Yun gave him was a rare treasure in the god realm. Its value could not be measured in divine crystals. Even if he was the kind of person who didn't care about trifles, he couldn't take advantage of her again and again. As if she had expected Night Sorrow to react this way, Jing Yun smiled sadly. I don't have a single family member now. I only have a few friends. Among them, only your cultivation can make use of the 9 Nether Phoenix Orchid. If you don't want it, it has no value. The truth was just as Jing Yun said. The 9 Nether Phoenix Orchid was a rare treasure to Night Sorrow, but to an invincible high god like her, it was of little use. Alright, in that case, I'll accept it. But I won't accept it for nothing. I'll definitely repay this favor. Speaking of her family, Jing Yun's eyes reddened. Night Sorrow didn't continue to refuse. Night Sorrow was about to accept it when Jing Yun smiled and said, "Then I'll wait for your favor." In truth, she didn't take this matter to heart. There's no time to lose. I'll enter the spatial artifact to cultivate. If Shuang He comes back, tell him to wait for me for a few days. I'm not far from the intermediate feather god realm. I should be able to break through soon. Night Sorrow said to Jing Yun, then walked into a guest room in the courtyard. He entered the accelerated space and used the Immortal Divine Arts Feather God chapter to absorb the 9 Nether Phoenix Orchid. Time passed quickly. After cultivating in the Clear Sky Pagoda for 50 years, Night Sorrow's cultivation had successfully advanced to the intermediate feather god realm. His strength had also increased. Now, he only lacked a few god-tier combat techniques. Absolute techniques were things that could only be found by chance. Night Sorrow felt that the most important thing at present was to enter the Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave and immediately leave the Clear Sky Pagoda after breaking through to the intermediate feather god realm. He had spent 50 years in the Clear Sky Pagoda, but only half a year had passed in the god realm. It wasn't too long. At this time, Jing Yun, who was worried about the safety of Night Sorrow's family, had already left. Zhuang He led 11 Feather God Realm cultivators and stood guard in the courtyard. Intermediate Feather God. It's actually an intermediate Feather God. We waited for half a year just to wait for an intermediate Feather God. Elder, aren't you making fun of us? Chapter 2482. Knight Sorrow had just become a mid-level Feather God. He couldn't hide his aura and was easily seen through. At first, Enchanting thought that Knight Sorrow, who had been chosen by Zhuang He and claimed to be on par with him, would definitely be a half-step high god. Now that he saw that Yi Futian was only a mid-level Feather God, he was furious. Tianyi, don't be rude. Knight Sorrow is on par with you. Zhuang He had a good temper. Tianyi's aura was strong and his tone was a little harsh, but he still tried to persuade him with a smile. Others couldn't sense Knight Sorrow's strength, but he knew. At the same time, he also believed that the Dark Alliance's information couldn't be wrong. Elder, if I remember correctly, the experts on the Feather God list are all half-step high gods, right? Tianyi shouted angrily, but he clearly just became a mid-level Feather God. How can someone like him be on par with me? If he's on par with me, why isn't his name on the Feather God list? When he heard Knight Sorrow's name, all the names on the Feather God list flashed through Tianyi's mind. He became even angrier when he realized that he wasn't on the list. He thought that the elder was trying to harm him. He sent a piece of trash who wasn't on the Feather God list and claimed that he was an expert. If he entered the Zhenyuan Divine Lord's cave with such a person and encountered the 3 invincible Feather Gods, he would definitely die. After being questioned by Tianyi repeatedly in front of Knight Sorrow, Zhuang He's temper was very good, but his tone became serious. The measure of a cultivator's strength is combat power, not the Feather God list. Don't take it to heart. Although he's a mid-level Feather God, he has the strength to defeat a high god. A mid-level Feather God can defeat a high god. Do you even believe yourself when you say something like being an elder? You found this thing and tricked me into entering the cave. Aren't you trying to harm me? After glancing at Knight Sorrow at the beginning, Tianyi's gaze was fixed on Zhuang He. He didn't care about Knight Sorrow or the other Feather Gods at all. Since you don't believe me, let's fight. Knight Sorrow had cultivated for many years and had the power of merit in his body. He disdained such a fierce battle. However, he knew that if he did not prove himself, Tianyi would continue to cause trouble. Therefore, he spoke up. In fact, he did not need anyone's help at all. He just wanted to find out the entrance to the Zhenyuan Divine Lord's cave from them. There was no need for a battle. If you can take one of my palms and not die, I will allow you to travel with us. Tianyi, who didn't even place Knight Sorrow in his eyes, congealed his god elemental energy and sent a palm strike towards Knight Sorrow ferociously. This palm was sparkling with the might of a high god. It wasn't something an ordinary Feather God could withstand. Nonsense. Seeing Tianyi make a move, Zhuang He immediately became furious. He waved his palm to stop him. He knew that Knight Sorrow definitely had the strength to back it up. This was the information he had obtained from the Dark Alliance and his judgment. It couldn't be wrong. However, he was afraid that Tianyi would anger him and affect the overall situation. After all, with Tianyi's strength, if he led a team into the Zhenyuan Divine Lord's cave alone, he would undoubtedly be courting death. At this moment, Knight Sorrow grabbed Tianyi with his left hand and grabbed Zhuang He with his right hand. He easily neutralized their movements. Knight Sorrow, who did all this, didn't even use his god elemental energy. How is this possible? Tianyi was instantly stunned by Knight Sorrow's calmness. He opened his mouth but didn't say a word. He had used all his strength in the palm strike just now. It was already equivalent to a high god's palm strike. He just didn't use his secret technique. He didn't expect that a mid-level feather god would be able to neutralize it so easily. This was a huge blow to him. Nothing is impossible. In the path of cultivation, there is no strongest, only stronger. I see that you've obviously become complacent with your achievements today. This is not conducive to continuing to become stronger. If it weren't for Elder Zhuanghe, I wouldn't have said this to you. Yun Tianyi was a genius saved by the Dark Alliance. He was likely to fight for High Base City in the future, so Knight Sorrow didn't argue with him. He continued, if there's nothing else, let's go. It's my fault for delaying you for half a year. After entering the Divine Lord's cave, I will do my best to take care of you. Why can't a mid-level feather god on the feather god list defeat me? At this moment, Yun Tianyi was still thinking with a bitter face. He felt that this was unbelievable. Tianyi, don't worry about it anymore. It's time to move. Zhuanghe comforted him. Then, he led Knight Sorrow, Yun Tianyi, and the other 12 feather god cultivators out of the Dark Tower's tunnel. After leaving the city, they went straight to the Divine Lord Jinyuan's cave. The Divine Lord Jinyuan's cave was located in a secret fissure a few million miles east of High Base City. Knight Sorrow and Yun Tianyi led 10 half-step high god cultivators and walked in the fissure for half a month before they found the entrance to the cave. There are 4 half-step high gods near the cave. They are hiding in the stone walls. Don't give them a chance to use the voice transmission stone. That will alert them. When they were still 10,000 miles away from the cave, Knight Sorrow used his divine sense to probe the cave and found the 4 half-step high gods hiding in the stone walls. They were definitely the sentries of the forces inside. He pointed out the location to Yun Tianyi and the others and took the lead to sneak in. Should we go too? The half-step high gods of the Dark Alliance didn't have as strong divine sense as Knight Sorrow. They didn't detect the enemy and looked at Yun Tianyi in confusion. If we are discovered by the sentries, the people inside will be prepared. This is going to be troublesome. Let's trust him this time. Yun Tianyi was an arrogant and unruly person, but after being defeated by Yi Shang, he had already put away his arrogance. However, he still felt somewhat displeased and jealous in his heart. It was just that he didn't show it right now. Later, they cooperated with Knight Sorrow and found 4 sentries in a row. After eliminating the sentries, they trusted Knight Sorrow more. Let's go in. For safety reasons, I will go first. You guys follow behind. The entrance to the cave was located by the Dark Alliance. Knight Sorrow was very confident in his strength. He said and walked in front. He wanted to protect the members of the Dark Alliance. Keep pretending. I think you want to go in front and take the lead in getting the resources. Yun Tianyi saw Knight Sorrow's reaction and thought to himself. He had always been the leader of the feather gods of the Dark Alliance. No matter what mission was completed, he was the one in command. Now that he saw Knight Sorrow overshadowing his brilliance, Yun Tianyi's mood gradually became complicated. Someone has indeed been here and set up a formation. After entering the Jinyuan Divine Lord's cave, Knight Sorrow found that the place he had just entered was a long and narrow circular passage. It looked like a cave. On the ground inside, there were several hidden formations that almost didn't have any fluctuations. He quickly reminded them. What greeted them was the soul-devouring evil wind that was stronger than the one in the Endless Bone Realm. You guys wait for me here. I will go and break the formation. Bracing himself against the familiar soul-devouring evil wind, Knight Sorrow took a step forward and walked into the passage. Hey! This is the soul-devouring evil wind. Come back quickly and wait for the wind to stop before going in. Yun Tianyi, who was standing at the entrance, saw Knight Sorrow walk in and immediately reminded him as if he was an idiot. It's okay. The soul-devouring evil wind can't do anything to me. Knight Sorrow turned around and waved his hand, indicating that he was fine. The soul-devouring evil wind could not do anything to his body's strength. These formations are not simple. It seems that we really need to be careful. Night Sorrow began to break the formation while enduring the soul-devouring evil wind. As soon as he started, he realized that the formation on the ground was not simple. It was obviously not something that an ordinary feather god could break. There was no doubt that there were not only 3 invincible feather gods in the other party's lineup, but also experts in formations. It was possible that one of the 3 invincible feather gods was very skilled in formations. Chapter 2483. Isn't it simple? I think you're the one who's deliberately mystifying things. Those who came in are all feather gods. How powerful can their formations be? Enchanting mocked as he watched Night Sorrow break the formation in the soul-devouring evil wind. He was ranked in the top 100 of the feather god list and was known as the invincible feather god. He regarded himself as a high god. Although 3 feather gods ranked higher than him had come in this time, he felt that even if they were stronger than him, their formations would not be much of a threat to him. In fact, it was not that Night Sorrow liked to steal the limelight, but that the various formations set up by the other party were indeed not simple. They were mysterious and targeted. The first array he set up was a very powerful invisible killing array. If Night Sorrow had not discovered this killing formation, most of the half-step high gods of the Dark Alliance would have been killed or injured if they had rushed in recklessly. If you think I'm deliberately mystifying things, you can come over and try. Enchanting was not weak, but he obviously did not understand formations. Otherwise, he would have seen some clues. Night Sorrow, who was breaking the formation, observed the formation patterns but could not find the core of the killing formation. He wanted to break the formation but did not know where to start. He was annoyed by Night Sorrow's interference, so he casually replied. Unexpectedly, upon hearing those words, Enchanting really condensed his divine essence to protect himself and rushed over. He could not see the range of the formation at all. He rushed directly into the killing formation's range. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. In an instant, tens of thousands of sword rays burst out from the killing formation and shot toward Enchanting. The individual attack power of these sword rays was almost equivalent to the sword chi of an ordinary upper-level feather god. It was not much of a threat to an invincible feather god like Enchanting. That's all. Look at you making a fuss. Enchanting immediately mocked when he realized that these sword rays could not break through his protective chi of righteousness. However, Enchanting soon realized that something was amiss. This array was actually using the terrain to strengthen the soul-devouring evil wind. Under the attacks of the strengthened soul-devouring evil wind and the tens of thousands of sword rays, his protective chi was rapidly being depleted. This feeling was like boiling a frog in warm water. At first, there was no feeling, but as time passed, the pressure became more and more terrifying. Gradually, Enchanting's face became serious. The high gods of the Dark Alliance who were watching from afar shouted anxiously. The 2 formation masters among them, Lin Mo and Zhou Zhangxue, formed their protective auras and rushed out. Enchanting was an important figure in the Dark League. Although they were struggling in the soul-devouring evil wind, they gritted their teeth and moved to the front of the formation to help break it. However, their horizons were not as broad as Night Sorrow's. Otherwise, they would have discovered the formation a long time ago. Therefore, their efforts were futile. On top of that, the soul-devouring evil wind had reduced him to a sorry state. Not only had his stellar energy been shattered, even his defensive robe had been torn apart. Why did you come down here? Go back. Seeing Lin Mo and Zhou Zhangxue rushing down to help, Enchanting, who had taken out his long sword to block the wind, immediately scolded them angrily. His attitude was not good, but it was clear that he cared about them. All right, we'll go back now. Lin Mo and Zhou Zhangxue knew that something was wrong and immediately rushed toward the entrance. However, the soul-devouring evil wind here was very strange. It was easy to enter, but difficult to return. Before they could even take a few steps, Lin Mo and Zhou Zhangxue were blown to pieces. They could not even stand properly and could only crawl on the ground. Bastards! Everyone, come and help. Do you want to see Lin Mo and Zhou Zhangxue die in the wind? Yun Tianyi, who was fighting against the killing sword, shouted anxiously when he saw that Lin Mo and Zhou Zhangxue were about to die in the soul-devouring evil wind. Hearing this, the other half-step high gods of the Dark Alliance immediately formed their protective chi and prepared to rush in. At this moment, they were fully aware of how terrifying the soul-devouring evil wind in the cave abode was. If not for Night Sorrow's warning, they would have rushed in mindlessly and the consequences would have been unimaginable. It seems that the members of the Dark Alliance get along well. In order to save their companions, the members of the Dark Alliance were not afraid of death. Seeing this, Yi Shan couldn't help but sigh in admiration. To be able to see the whole picture with a single glance, this proved that the Dark Alliance was humane. It must be because of Ao Fang's son, Ao Qingyun's good leadership. I know you're anxious, but it's useless to go in together. Let's wait at the entrance. I'll save them. Seeing that Lin Mo and Zhou Zhangxue were in a sorry state, Night Sorrow naturally would not sit by and do nothing. He shouted at the entrance and formed his power of merit to protect them and send them back to the entrance. This is such a powerful power of merit. This was the first time Night Sorrow had used his power of merit in front of these people. When the members of the Dark Alliance saw that Night Sorrow's power of merit could easily block the soul-devouring evil wind, they could not help but praise him. Thank you, Night Sorrow. Zhou Zhangxue's face was pale as he returned to the entrance and immediately thanked Yi Shiwen. Thank you, Brother Yi. I didn't expect you to be the feather god of merit on top of being strong. You're much stronger than us. There's a spot on the feather god list for you. Lin Mo, who was also in a sorry state, thanked Yi Shiwen sincerely. If not for Night Sorrow, they might have died in the soul-devouring evil wind. The soul-devouring evil wind was different from the information they had received. It was clearly stronger. Thank you, Brother Yi. Thank you, Brother Yi, for saving us. Seeing that Lin Mo and Zhou Zhangxue were saved, the others also cupped their fists in gratitude. Then, Zhou Zhangxue, who still had lingering fear, begged Night Sorrow, Tianyi is the most talented among us. Senior Brother Yi, please save him. Don't worry, we came together. I naturally won't leave him to die. Saving him is more important, so I won't be polite with you. After replying, Night Sorrow immediately turned around and prepared to break the formation to save Yun Tianyi. With his magnanimity, he naturally wouldn't leave him to die. I didn't expect you to be the feather god of merit, and you're quite righteous. I, Yun Tianyi, owe you a favor. Yun Tianyi was a little jealous that Night Sorrow was stronger than him, but he was very grateful that Night Sorrow had saved Lin Mo and Zhou Zhangxue. Whether I owe you a favor or not, that's easy. The problem now is how to save you. I can't find the eye of this formation at all. The formation in front of him had some tricks. After Yun Tianyi activated it, he still couldn't find the eye of the formation. Moreover, it had nothing to do with his attributes. Night Sorrow, who had been pondering for a long time but still couldn't find a way to break the formation, was certain that he couldn't break it outside. Therefore, he condensed his power of merit and charged into the formation. What are you doing? We only have 2 invincible feather gods on this trip. If both of them die in the formation, what will happen to the rest? Seeing Night Sorrow enter the formation, Yun Tianyi immediately shouted angrily. The others also felt their hearts clench. Chapter 2484. I can't break the array from the outside, so I have to come in. If this continues, your divine essence energy will be exhausted sooner or later. If we don't break the array, we won't be able to get through. The opportunity will definitely fall into the hands of others. Knight Soro's goal was to obtain Divine Lord Jinyuan's letter. He wanted to break the array as soon as possible more than anyone else. This wasn't just to save Yuntiani. After explaining, Knight Soro condensed some power of merit to protect Yuntiani and share some of her pressure. As for himself, he was searching for the eye of the formation and other clues in the killing formation that was thousands of miles wide. With the blue phoenix armor protecting him, Knight Soro didn't need to expend any effort to resist the soul-devouring evil wind and sword radiance. He could enter the killing array as if there was no one there. This shocked Yuntiani and the members of the Dark Alliance. At this moment, everyone, including Yuntiani, realized how big the gap was between them and Knight Soro. This array has some tricks. It's not easy to break. The person who set up the array is very skilled. Inside the killing array, Knight Soro didn't panic at all. It was just that the array was too difficult to break. He couldn't find a way to break it. This was because Knight Soro had too few divine-level array diagrams. He had only seriously studied one and didn't have enough experience in array formations. Moreover, the person who set up the array was very skilled in array formations. If that's the case, I'll break the array with brute force. Unable to find a loophole, Knight Soro decided to use the least technical and most domineering method to break the array. He would break it with brute force. Currently, the Inferno Demon Subduing Spear was a high god-level forbidden artifact. The Heavenly Samsara Halberd was only a feather god-level forbidden artifact. The Soul-Splitting Evil Vanquishing Spear was a monarch god-level artifact. Its grade was too high and difficult to control. Therefore, he kept it in his spatial artifact and didn't consider using it. After making his choice, Knight Soro took the Inferno Demon Subduing Spear from his back and directly attacked the array's boundary. Under his attack, the killing array was obviously shaken. This seems to be effective. Seeing Knight Soro's performance, Yuntiani was instantly energized. She immediately used a secret technique to increase her strength. She used the sword in her hand to perform an ultimate technique. The dazzling sword light immediately bombarded the barrier of the killing array. Boom! Knight Soro had only used a normal attack, but Yuntiani had directly used his ultimate technique. He had achieved a greater effect and had shaken the boundary of the killing array even more clearly. Sure enough, it's effective. Breaking the formation is right in front of us. Yuntiani's aura became even stronger as she continuously displayed 3 types of sword techniques. Each move was more ruthless than the last, continuously shaking the barrier of the killing formation. Under his powerful attacks, cracks quickly appeared on the barrier. Knight Soro then coordinated with his Inferno Demon Subduing Spear and continued to attack. It didn't take long for the barrier to break. Phew! I'm finally out. After escaping from the killing formation, Yuntiani felt the joy of surviving a calamity. She realized that she had indeed been too rash this time. He looked at Knight Soro and said, "Thank you for your help this time. I will consider your opinion as we move forward." "It doesn't matter." Hearing this, Knight Soro asked, "How much of your strength did you use just now?" "Of course it was 100%. If I didn't use my full strength, how could we have broken the formation so quickly? However, I still have a few trump cards that I haven't used yet," Yuntiani replied without hesitation. He had indeed used his full strength to eliminate some of his trump cards. With your strength, it's very likely that they have already sensed it. When Knight Soro had attacked just now, he hadn't used his full strength at all because he knew that breaking the formation could be sensed by the people who had set it up. Unexpectedly, Yuntiani had used his full strength even though he hadn't used his full strength. It was too late for him to warn her. If we were to snatch resources together, we would have met sooner or later. It's not a big deal if they sensed our strength. Hearing Night Sorrow's words, Enchanting immediately understood that he might have been exposed. However, since it was too late to regret, he didn't care anymore. They might be able to guess your identity. After all, the 100 people on the God of Feathers list are all out in the open. However, I didn't use my full strength just now, so they shouldn't be on guard against me. This is where our advantage lies. Night Sorrow explained, then continued, now that we know how terrifying the soul-devouring evil wind and the various formations are, I'm afraid we'll have to change our strategy. Let's go back to the entrance and discuss it. The soul-devouring evil wind was much stronger than expected. Many of the Dark Alliance's high gods couldn't handle it. This was a big problem. Night Sorrow couldn't use his power of virtue to protect them forever. This matter had to be resolved immediately. That's true. I'll try to use a spatial artifact to store everyone inside. Enchanting knew that Night Sorrow's words made sense. The cave was too dangerous. If they entered without enough strength, the chances of dying were too high. What's going on? Why can't we store them? Enchanting returned to the entrance and tried to store a half-step high god in his spatial artifact. However, no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't do it. The others tried as well, but found that spatial artifacts couldn't be used in the cave at all. They couldn't store or take people out. We can't even take them out. It seems that even if we store them inside, they won't be able to leave the cave. Enchanting, who discovered this, made a prompt decision. Everyone, as you can see, the cave is too dangerous. Night Sorrow may be strong, but he can't take care of everyone all the time. What I mean is that you all go back the way you came, and I'll go in with him. It seems that's the only way now. I didn't expect the cave to become so scary. This wasn't what the elders told us. Lin Mo, who had been hoping to find an opportunity in the cave, sighed immediately. Among these people, he was second only to Enchanting. If even he couldn't survive the soul-devouring evil wind, there was no need to mention the others. Let's not waste time. Let's not waste any more time. Let Brother Yi and Tianyi go in deeper. Let's go back the way we came. Zhou Zhangxue, who still had lingering fears, suggested. At this moment, seeing that the crowd was reluctant to leave, Yishang comforted them, everyone, don't worry. Aside from the letters that I was entrusted with, there are no other letters. I didn't ask for anything from the letter, and I'll share it with everyone. Thank you, Brother Yi. Lin Mo cupped his fists gratefully at Night Sorrow. He knew that Night Sorrow was the feather god of merit and would do what he said. Then, he led the Dark Alliance's half-step high gods out of the Zhenyuan Divine Lord's cave. There's only the two of us left. You're an expert on the feather god list, but the opponent is even stronger. We can't be careless. From now on, you have to follow me and don't be rash. Spatial artifacts can't be used here. If treasures appear, the competition will be very cruel. You have to be mentally prepared. After the others left, Night Sorrow looked at Enchanting and instructed. He had been through countless battles. Enchanting was relatively impulsive, so he had to explain things in advance. Okay, I'll listen to all your orders in the cave. Enchanting, who had been very jealous of Night Sorrow, gradually began to admire him. He felt that not only was Night Sorrow's strength so outstanding that he couldn't see through him, but Night Sorrow was also much better than him in terms of character. The killing array I set up has been broken. There are two people who broke it. One of them is average, but the other is probably Enchanting, who is ranked 100 on the Feather God list. Chapter 2485. The light on the white-haired young man's body was black, which completely blocked the soul-eating evil wind. They were already 100,000 miles into the cave, and the soul-eating evil wind was stronger than the one at the entrance, which meant that he was very powerful. Enchanting, who is ranked 100. I know he's nothing to be afraid of. Even I, Shangguanhai, can easily kill him, let alone you, who is ranked 50 on the Feather God list. He can stay on the Feather God list because he hasn't been challenged. Shangguanhai, who was wearing a navy blue robe, immediately sneered when he heard Yuntani's name. Oh. Is it possible that he's hiding his strength like Ningxin and I? The white-haired young man Ji Hao looked at Shangguanhai and then at Lang Ningxin, who was dressed in black. He was ranked 47th on the Feather God list, while Lang Ningxin was ranked 76th. Both of them were hiding their strength. No, definitely not. We are from the same sect, so I know he's not a shrewd person. Shangguanhai explained casually. He and Yuntani were from the same sect, but he didn't know that Yuntani was from High Bay City. Otherwise, there would have been a fight between them. Langqi Mountain's hostility toward High Bay City wasn't that simple. That's for the best. We don't have to worry about others taking advantage of us. Ji Hao, who was ranked 47th on the Feather God list, looked into the distance inside. This immortal Jinyuan's cave is really hard to break through. We're already 100,000 miles in, but there are no opportunities and dangers everywhere. None of the arrays left by the immortal Jinyuan were simple. If it weren't for Ji Hao's high attainment in arrays, they wouldn't have been able to reach where they were now. Even though they were strong, they still lost a layer of skin after walking for 100,000 miles. The immortal Jinyuan's method of strengthening the divine soul must be in the cave. We haven't gone deep enough. As soon as Lang Ningxin spoke, the surroundings were instantly frozen. Her ice body was very strong. Yes, it must be so. But you'd better not talk. It's too cold. Shangguanhai, who had just killed a puppet whose strength was close to that of a great god, said with a smile. The Divine Lord Jinyuan's soul-strengthening technique was something that not even the heartless Divine King had obtained back then. It was definitely still in the cave abode. That's for the best. Let's go deeper. Among the three of them, Ji Hao's strength and attainments in formations were the strongest, so he led the team in front. While the three of them were moving forward, Night Sorrow and Yuntani continuously attacked and broke all the arrays set up by Ji Hao. Finally, they walked out of the circular corridor at the entrance. The two of them walked out of the circular corridor and immediately walked into a hall that was paved with stones. In the middle of the hall, there was a pile of huge broken stone pillars. Under the soul-devouring evil wind, these stone pillars were constantly blown to the ground and rolled away. All sorts of skeleton puppets spawned around the stone pillars. These skeleton puppets were very similar to the skeletons in the Endless Bone Realm, but they were not quite the same. First of all, they were much more powerful. Most of them were at the lower or upper celestial realm. Second of all, they did not have much evil aura. They should have been artificially created, not bred evil creatures. What should we do next? Should we go around these skeletons or kill them directly? The square hall was very spacious. It was tens of thousands of miles long and wide. Night Sorrow and Yuntani looked quite small in comparison. If they went around the edge of the hall, they might not be attacked by the skeletons. That was why Yuntani asked this question. At this time, Night Sorrow said, "We entered the cave abode to try our luck, not to barge in blindly. Let's explore this place first." Although this hall is clear at a glance and the arrays set up have been broken, there are still some skeletons and stone pillars. That makes sense. Then let's study these skeletons and stone pillars carefully. Yuntani nodded. She picked up a piece of gravel and threw it at a lower or upper celestial realm skeleton puppet, luring it to the edge of the hall. There were almost 100 lower or upper celestial realm skeletons near the stone pillars. Although Yuntani was confident, she did not dare to charge directly. There are divine crystals in these skeletons that provide energy. They are of a very high grade and can be used for cultivation. After killing the skeletons, Enchanting took out the divine crystals in the skull of the skeletons and said, "This divine crystal is indeed good. It can be used to power upper celestial realm skeleton puppets. But I don't think the cave abode of the genuine divine lord is that simple. He is a genius who is proficient in alchemy, crafting and array Dao. Every area he designed might have a special meaning." At this point, Night Sorrow seemed to have an epiphany and said, "Enchanting, let's go back." "Okay. Let's start from the beginning." Enchanting was an invincible upper celestial, so she was naturally not a simpleton. She immediately understood what Night Sorrow meant and returned to the circular corridor with him to look for opportunities. After the two broke the array, they did not stop in this area and walked into the hall. After returning, they began to use their soul power to carefully search every gravel in the circular corridor. There seems to be life energy in this gravel. It might be a small world. After patiently searching for half a month in the circular corridor, Enchanting suddenly shouted. He found a very special gravel. There is indeed life energy. Let's go in and take a look. Follow me. After discovering something, Night Sorrow immediately shrank his body and wanted to enter the gravel. But as soon as his body touched the gravel, he activated the array patterns on the gravel and was immediately sent flying by the light from the array patterns. It seems that if we want to enter this small world, we have to break the array outside. These array patterns are obviously more mysterious than the ones we broke just now. They might be the work of the genuine Divine Lord. After discovering this situation, Night Sorrow began to study it with interest. Study it carefully. I don't understand these things at all. Enchanting, who knew nothing about arrays, could only stare helplessly and could not help at all. These array patterns don't seem to be used to break them. They are used to learn. You should try to learn them too. Night Sorrow studied for 3 consecutive months and did not break the array on the gravel. But he made a surprising discovery. It turned out that the array patterns on the gravel did not need to be broken at all. He only needed to learn them to control the array on the gravel. Yishang's divine soul was extremely powerful. It was unknown how many times stronger than Enchanting's. He only used a little more than a month to learn the array patterns, while Enchanting used more than 2 years. I finally learned it. This thing is too complicated. My soul power is almost exhausted. After trying his best to learn the array patterns, Enchanting rubbed his head and said. In the past, he was only interested in cultivation and improving his strength. He did not learn alchemy, refining weapons, or arrays. He felt that it was a waste of energy. Now, learning this array pattern was very laborious. Since you have learned it, let's control the array and enter the gravel together. Night Sorrow, who had been waiting for Enchanting for many days, said and then controlled the array to enter the gravel. Enchanting followed closely behind and entered the small world in the gravel. After entering the small world, Night Sorrow and Enchanting were immediately shocked by the scene in front of them. Chapter 2486. In front of them was a sea of soul-devouring beasts. The strongest soul-devouring beast king was a half-step divine lord. The other billions of soul-devouring beasts were basically at the feather god realm and high god realm. They were densely packed as far as the eye could see. The evil dark aura almost broke through the sky. The difference in numbers between the two sides was too great. Night Sorrow and Enchanting were a little shocked. This was something they never expected. How is this an opportunity? This is clearly the soul-devouring beast's lair. We are too smart for our own good. Facing the ferocious soul-devouring beast army in front of them, Enchanting was quite frightened. She already had thoughts of retreating and looking for the small world's exit. But after looking around, she did not find anything. Clearly, this place could only be entered but not exited. Don't panic. Let's observe first. Yuntiani was clearly a little impatient. Knight Sorrow, who was carefully observing the soul-devouring beasts, reminded him. The soul-devouring beast army was indeed terrifying. The dark aura was shocking, but there were no divine lords among them. He was only wary but not very afraid. Still not panicking. I've read about soul-devouring beasts in the classics. They can devour the souls of cultivators. If you are devoured by them, your physical body will become a shell without intelligence. Yuntiani, who was still looking for the exit, was extremely flustered. She did not have the demeanor of an invincible feather god expert. 2 human cultivators. Where is Xinyuan? Get him to come out and fight with me. At this moment, the half-step divine lord soul-devouring beast king suddenly spoke. Its voice was very cold, giving people an extremely evil feeling. After the soul-devouring beast king spoke, all the soul-devouring beasts turned their attention to Knight Sorrow and Yuntiani. Being stared at like this, Yuntiani's hair stood on end. Even Knight Sorrow felt very uncomfortable. There were simply too many soul-devouring beasts. The feeling they gave people was that kind of cold evil feeling. They had not attacked yet, but it made the 2 of them very uncomfortable. It was as if their divine souls were being pulled. I'm asking you, where is Divine Lord Xinyuan? Knight Sorrow and Yuntiani did not answer. The soul-devouring beast king immediately flew into a rage and shouted again. What should we do now? I can't beat him, and I have nowhere to run. Yuntiani felt that her soul was about to explode after being interrogated by the soul-devouring beast king. She shook her head and said. This soul-devouring beast king only had the strength of a half-step divine lord, yet it shamelessly boasted that it wanted to challenge an invincible divine lord. This was clearly a bit strange. But facing it, Yuntiani felt like her head was about to explode. Since there's no chance to escape, let's fight. Don't stray too far from me, and don't use the power of your spirit. Knight Sorrow ignored the soul-devouring beast king's shouts and used his divine soul power to probe the soul-devouring beast army. When he discovered that any soul energy that approached the soul-devouring beasts would be devoured, he reminded Yuntiani and took the lead to charge towards the soul-devouring beasts. Knight Sorrow did not find any exits after using his divine soul power to probe the surroundings. Under such circumstances, they could only choose to fight. He guessed that these soul-devouring beasts might have been sealed by Divine Lord Xinyuan back then, and were accidentally discovered by the 2 of them. There are so many soul-devouring beasts, we can't win at all. Aren't we courting death if we charge in like this? Seeing Knight Sorrow charge into the soul-devouring beast army, Yuntiani, who immediately followed, broke down a little. Both sides were outnumbered. He felt that charging into the soul-devouring beast army was an act of suicide. The path of cultivation can't be smooth sailing. It's normal to encounter enemies that can't be defeated. Now that there's no way out, it's over for us to fight. Follow me and attack the soul-devouring beast king with all your might. When approaching the soul-devouring beast army, Knight Sorrow suddenly used the power of merit, causing the golden dragon of merit to coil around his body. The power of merit coiled around his body, and the corrosive dark aura was immediately dispersed. Some of the divine feather realm's soul-devouring beasts sensed the aura of the power of merit and immediately dodged in fear. The high god realm's soul-devouring beasts' movements were also slightly affected. Only the half-step divine lord's soul-devouring beast king was not affected by the power of merit at all. It took the initiative to attack the 2 of them. Its attacks targeted the soul directly, and the blue phoenix armor could only offset a portion of it. Just in time. As long as I control you, the other soul-devouring beasts are nothing to be afraid of. Facing the soul-devouring beast's soul attack, Night Sorrow tried his best to resist while dispersing a portion of the power of merit. He used his left hand to absorb the dark aura emitted by the soul-devouring beast army. He had done something like absorbing the dark aura in the endless bone region before. Trying it again was a walk in the park. All he needed was time. Enough ants could kill an elephant. There were too many soul-devouring beasts. No matter what, it was impossible to kill all of them. Night Sorrow prepared to absorb enough dark aura before using soul control on the soul-devouring beast king. As long as he enslaved it, the threat of the other soul-devouring beasts would naturally be resolved. Yuntiani, cooperate with me to attack it. I need to injure it. After blocking the soul-devouring beast king's soul attack, Night Sorrow took out the fiery demon-subduing spear from his back and activated the essence smoke and stars dominating body. He suddenly used the fiery demon-subduing spear on the soul-devouring beast king. The area covered by this move was quite large. It immediately covered thousands of soul-devouring beasts. It delayed the soul-devouring beast army's reinforcements to the soul-devouring beast king. All right. I will seize the opportunity. Phaseless sword formation. Seeing that Night Sorrow attacked without hesitation, Yuntiani, who was originally afraid of battle, immediately used his long sword to perform his ultimate technique. His long sword directly turned into a sword formation that descended from the sky and trapped the soul-devouring beast king inside. The sword formation was formless and formless, but the sword chi shot out in all directions. Its attack power was close to that of an intermediate high god. Whoa! Dark creatures like the soul-devouring beast could devour the souls of cultivators to strengthen their own souls. Hence, their souls were relatively strong. However, their weakness was that their bodies were relatively weak. After being continuously attacked by the sharp sword chi, several wounds that emitted dark aura appeared on the soul-devouring beast king's body. It was in so much pain that it screamed. However, it immediately became completely enraged and spat out a mouthful of dark aura at Yuntiani. Oh no, dodge quickly. The soul-devouring beast king's attack was very corrosive and could corrode the soul. Night Sorrow more or less knew about this technique. However, when he opened his mouth, Yuntiani could no longer dodge. Power of merit purification. Seeing that Yuntiani's body was enveloped by the dark aura, Night Sorrow immediately used the power of merit to help him dispel it. At the same time, his left hand frantically absorbed the dark aura. The speed of absorption was thousands of times faster than before. I'm actually fine. All the dark aura was absorbed by Night Sorrow. Yuntiani, who originally thought that he was going to die, was a little surprised. At this moment, he saw that Night Sorrow's body was enveloped by the dark aura. He immediately shouted, "What are you doing?" Chapter 2487. Don't worry, I'm fine. This is my method. With the power of virtue protecting his body, it was not too easy to absorb the darkness aura. Night Sorrow simply put away the power of virtue. The current him already looked like he was completely shrouded by the darkness aura, as if he had transformed into a humanoid soul-devouring beast. It was no wonder that Yuntiani was worried. After replying to Yuntiani, Night Sorrow began to prepare his next attack. If the soul-devouring beast king was not injured, he would definitely be asking for trouble by using soul control. And in the Divine Lord Jinyuan's abode, he could not use spatial artifacts. He could not take out the Divine Soul Recovery Pill to recover his body. Therefore, the 7-star rampage could not be used at will. Hence, the attack power against a half-step Divine Lord was a little weaker. Looking at it now, I can only use this move. Thinking for a moment, Night Sorrow simply steeled his heart and fused the Inferno Demon subduing spear into the heavenly Samsara halberd. After the two fused, the newly formed heavenly samsara halberd was still mainly reincarnation attribute. However, the spear body became emerald green and covered in blazing flames. Try my samsara strike. After fusing the new heavenly samsara halberd, Night Sorrow casually waved and fired an attack at the half-step Divine Lord Realm's soul-devouring Beast King. This spear contained a very powerful reincarnation attribute. It instantly dropped the soul-devouring Beast King's strength to high god level. Yuntiani, use your strongest move to attack it. Now is a good opportunity. Night Sorrow, who succeeded in one attack, expended quite a lot of energy. He needed a certain amount of time to recover his divine essence energy. He could only let Yuntiani attack the soul-devouring Beast King. Alright, I'll try my best. Hearing this, Yuntiani did not hesitate at all and unleashed her trump card Mystic Art. She burned her bloodline power, raising her cultivation several times, and once again displayed the phaseless sword formation. Yuntiani's phaseless sword formation locked onto the soul-devouring Beast King once more and shot out sword energy continuously. The soul-devouring Beast King's aura immediately weakened greatly. Now! Protect me! The soul-devouring Beast King's aura had clearly weakened. Night Sorrow realized that his chance had come. He shouted at Yuntiani and used his dark aura to control the soul-devouring Beast King's soul. Originally, the soul-devouring Beast King's divine soul was very powerful, and Night Sorrow was far from being its match. However, it had been reduced by a level by the power of reincarnation, and it needed to control its divine soul to resist Yuntiani's non-phase sword array. In this period of time, their strength was already infinitely close. Night Sorrow, who had experience in soul control several times, once again used the power of merit against the soul-devouring Beast King. This was done to defend against the other soul-devouring beasts and also to disturb the soul-devouring Beast King. No matter what kind of dark creature it was, they would all be wary of the power of merit. This was an unchanging truth. Are you using darkness control on a creature of darkness? Yuntiani, who had ignited his bloodline to increase his strength, was a little weak. However, after confirming that Night Sorrow was using soul control, he immediately understood what to do. He swore to guard Night Sorrow with his life, not allowing any soul-devouring beasts to approach. Yuntiani needed to continuously ignite his bloodline power to do this, which consumed a lot of energy. But if he did not persevere, Night Sorrow would be disturbed by the soul-devouring beast and would definitely fail at the last step. Then, both of them would die. This soul-devouring beast's divine soul power doesn't seem to be as powerful as I imagined. At the same time, Night Sorrow, who was locked in a stalemate with the soul-devouring Beast King's soul, discovered that the soul-devouring Beast King's soul seemed to be incomplete. This discovery was of great help to him. In the stalemate, Night Sorrow mocked, "You're not complete. If I'm not wrong, you've already been beaten into several parts." Doing this was naturally to disturb the soul-devouring Beast King's mind. Now that the two souls were entangled together, a single thought would be sensed by the other party. Human. Your tricks won't be able to disturb this king. This king will successfully control you. Since ancient times, soul-devouring beasts had always controlled cultivators. This was the first time the soul-devouring Beast King encountered a situation where its mind was controlled by a human cultivator. Naturally, it would not give up so easily. However, Night Sorrow's guess was not wrong. Its soul had indeed been scattered. Right now, only a small part was left, which was why it had the strength of a half-step Divine Lord. Just now, you said that you wanted to challenge Divine Lord Jin Yuan. It seems like you should have been an invincible Divine Lord at your peak. However, you were already defeated by Divine Lord Jin Yuan and split into your current state. Recalling the soul-devouring Beast King's words when it first came out, Night Sorrow quickly made his own judgment. Nonsense, you're talking nonsense. The moment Knight's Sorrow said that, the soul-devouring Beast King immediately recalled how it was beaten up by Divine Lord Jinyuan. Its soul began to tremble violently and its body swayed non-stop. Order the other soul-devouring beasts to stop. Taking advantage of the soul-devouring Beast King's soul fluctuation, Knight's Sorrow completely controlled it and issued an order. Warriors of the soul-devouring beast clan, listen to this king's order and stop attacking. The soul-devouring beast king, who was controlled by Knight's Sorrow, immediately issued an order obediently. Under its order, all the soul-devouring beasts stopped attacking. Yuntiani, how are you? After controlling the soul-devouring beast king, Knight's Sorrow immediately recovered. However, he saw that Yuntiani's aura was extremely weak. Knight's Sorrow, who helped Yuntiani up, used the power of merit to disperse the dark aura around him. I'm exhausted. I need to leave the cave and take some elixirs to consume. Yuntiani had a special elixir on her, but she could not take it out now. Alright, hold on a little longer. I'll think of a way. After speaking to Yuntiani, Knight's Sorrow ordered the soul-devouring beast king, let all the soul-devouring beasts kill each other. Just now, he read some of the soul-devouring beast king's soul and knew that its soul was indeed shattered by the divine Lord Jinyuan and split into several parts. It was the true king of the soul-devouring beast clan. The other soul-devouring beasts would obey any order it gave. Yes. The soul-devouring beast king, who was controlled by Knight's Sorrow, immediately obeyed the order. Under its order, tens of thousands of soul-devouring beasts began to kill each other crazily. Their numbers also rapidly decreased. It's still too slow. You go and fight too. No, you make them stop. In the soul-devouring beast king's memory, there was no exit to this small world. Knight's Sorrow, who originally wanted the soul-devouring beast king to order all the soul-devouring beasts to self-destruct, suddenly thought of a way to get out. He took Yuntiani and hid at the edge of the small world. Then, he let the soul-devouring beast king order the other soul-devouring beasts to gather at the other edge of the small world and self-destruct together. Bang! 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 With so many soul-devouring beasts gathered at one point, the power of their self-destruction could be imagined. The originally stable small world suddenly had a hole blown open. You can also take care of it yourself. Self-destruct. Originally, there were hundreds of millions of soul-devouring beasts, but now there was only one soul-devouring beast king left. Knight's Sorrow hesitated for a moment, gave up the idea of controlling it, and let it self-destruct. With a loud bang, the soul-devouring beast king also exploded into nothingness. At the same time, a tall shadow appeared in front of Knight's Sorrow and Yuntiani. Divine Lord Jinyuan. Chapter 2488. I'm just a phantom image left behind by the Divine Lord in this world. Upon hearing Knight's Sorrow shout, Divine Lord Jinyuan's phantom image immediately sighed. I actually saw the legendary Divine Lord Jinyuan. Yuntiani, who was originally in a bad state, immediately had a clear look in his eyes. Although it was just a phantom image of Divine Lord Jinyuan in front of him, he was still very excited. After all, it was rare to see an invincible Divine Lord. I stayed here to give you your rewards. You killed so many soul-devouring beasts and deserve the soul-strengthening elixir and this elixir recipe. With a wave of his hand, Divine Lord Jinyuan's phantom image threw out an elixir recipe and a soul-strengthening elixir. Thank you, Divine Lord. Upon seeing the elixir recipe and soul-strengthening elixir floating in the air, Knight's Sorrow thanked him before looking at Yuntiani and saying, You can choose first. Leave the rest to me. I choose the soul-strengthening elixir. It can strengthen the soul and is very useful to me. Yuntiani was not interested in alchemy. Without hesitation, he chose the soul-strengthening elixir. The elixir recipe of the soul-strengthening elixir. Knight Sorrow, who took the elixir recipe, laughed when he saw the name of the elixir recipe. Yun Tianyi chose fish, but what he received was a fish. With the elixir recipe of the soul-strengthening elixir, he did not have to worry about a lack of soul-strengthening elixir in the future. I don't have much time. What do you want to ask? How about this, each of you ask a question and I'll try my best to answer. After Divine Lord Jinyuan's phantom image threw out the soul-strengthening elixir and the elixir recipe, it clearly became more transparent and would probably disappear soon. You can ask first. Knight Sorrow already had a question in mind, but he let Yun Tianyi ask first. Upon hearing Knight Sorrow's words, Yun Tianyi thought for a moment before asking, Divine Lord, are you still alive? This question surprised Knight Sorrow. He originally thought that Yun Tianyi would ask about the opportunities in the cave abode. Divine Lord Jinyuan's phantom image hesitated for a moment before saying, I definitely died back then. I'm not sure if I'm alive or dead now. Oh. In that case, there's a possibility of God's sovereign Jinyuan reviving. Yun Tianyi's eyes lit up when she got the answer. You think too much. What I mean is that this phantom has always been in the small world and doesn't know what's going on in the outside world. I believe that the real Divine Lord Jinyuan has already perished. What remains in the world should only be a few phantoms. After saying that, the phantom turned even dimmer. At this moment, he looked at Knight Sorrow and said, Ask away. I would like to ask Divine Lord, where is the letter you left for Senior Long Tianqing? Without any hesitation, Yi Shan asked directly. Tianqing. How is she now? Hearing this, the phantom image of Sir God Jinyuan clearly trembled. Senior Long's condition is still alright. Knight Sorrow told him about Long Tianqing's situation and their karma. I have let her down. The phantom image of Sir God Jinyuan seemed to be immersed in his memories. After a while, he became so dim that he was almost invisible. Finally, he sighed and said, The letter is in my coffin. My coffin is in the deepest part of the cave abode. This time, the phantom image of Sir God Jinyuan did not address himself as the real Divine Lord Jinyuan. After saying that, he completely dissipated into the air. At this moment, Yun Tianyi's condition was very bad. Knight Sorrow helped her out of the cave abode and found a secluded corner to set up a concealment array so that she could recover. Knight Sorrow took out some elixirs that he often used and placed them in an ordinary medicine bottle. He hung it on his belt. Sir God Jinyuan said that the letter was in his coffin and the coffin was in the deepest part of the cave abode. Knight Sorrow decided that the next time he entered, he would not deliberately look for opportunities. Instead, he would go straight to the deepest part of the cave abode. To him, obtaining the letter and obtaining information about how to save his family was more important than anything else. Oh. Someone is coming. Knight Sorrow was not seriously injured. While Yun Tianyi was recovering, he had been guarding her and did not cultivate. While Yun Tianyi was recovering, Knight Sorrow saw Mingyi's daughter, Mingyu, enter the cave abode with an invincible feather god and 5 or 6 cultivators who were close to the level of an invincible feather god. Mingyu, who had just become a half-step high god, was obviously not as strong as Lin Mo. However, after entering the cave abode, she did not come out. She must have a way to protect herself. That invincible feather god is obviously much stronger than Yun Tianyi. I wonder who he is. The invincible feather god that Mingyu had brought with her was definitely not the one that Zhuang He had mentioned. Knight Sorrow could not guess his identity. However, if Yun Tianyi was awake, she would definitely recognize him. He was Yan Jiannan, ranked 27th on the feather god list. This Yan Jiannan came from the martial god sect of the Heartless Divine Realm. He was Mingyu's senior brother. Although he was in the Heartless Divine Realm, he was not from there. More people are coming. Not long after Mingyu and the others entered, Mingyi's military advisor, King Mingzi, brought Mingyi's son, Mingjue, and 2 other invincible feather gods into the cave abode. They were in a hurry and seemed to be traveling at night. Because they were in a hurry to enter, they did not discover Yi Shang's concealment formation. Mingyi's daughter and son know that Wuxin's 3 invincible feather gods have entered. They even invited reinforcements. This is going to be a fight to the death. If I'm not mistaken, the reinforcements they invited must be stronger than Wuxin's 3 invincible feather gods. Although Night Sorrow did not know who Mingyu and Mingjue had invited, he knew that they were not weak. There are more people. No, this is the aura of a divine lord. Just then, Night Sorrow sensed an extremely dangerous aura. Without hesitation, he dragged Yuntiani into the cave abode. As soon as they disappeared into the cave abode, a huge handprint slammed toward them. It crashed into the cave abode with a boom. Why are there more divine lords here? The trip to the cave abode was getting more and more complicated. Night Sorrow waited for Yuntiani to wake up and tell him what he had seen. With a divine lord here, we can't leave the cave abode easily. If I had known, I would have taken out more elixirs. Hearing Night Sorrow's words, Yuntiani sighed and asked, Night Sorrow, how strong are you? If we encounter those people inside, do we have a chance of winning? After absorbing the soul-strengthening elixir, Yuntiani's divine soul had become much stronger. However, he was still weaker than some of the invincible feather gods who had entered. Hearing this, Night Sorrow thought for a moment and said, I don't know their true strength, but we should be able to escape unscathed. Now that he had the soul recovery elixir, he could use the 7-star violent alcade and master the vanishing shadow void escape. Night Sorrow felt that no matter what kind of feather god realm genius he encountered, he would be able to put up a fight. Then I know. Yuntiani smiled and said, they've all gone in. Let's go. Let's go. Night Sorrow nodded and walked into the cave abode with Yuntiani. Chapter 2489. The sounds of fighting came from the hole. Night Sorrow and Yuntiani were blocked in the passage. Let's go check it out. Be careful and control your aura. Night Sorrow instructed Yuntiani. Then, he concealed his aura and went to the exit of the passage. God Xinyuan's projection had said that the letter was in the coffin in the deepest part of the cave. Night Sorrow did not want to be delayed by anyone. He wanted to see if there was a chance to go over. Don't worry. I'll be careful. Yuntiani was mediocre compared to Night Sorrow. But she was still a genius on the God of Feathers list. His concealment skills were quite good. He followed behind Yi Shang and quietly crept up. The 2 of them hid at the entrance of the passage. They looked around and realized that the 2 parties fighting were Mingyu and Mingju. They were fighting near the stone pillar in the center of the hole. Qing Mingzi stood awkwardly at the side and tried to persuade them. Although he had come in with Mingju, he was Mingyi's military advisor and could not attack Mingyu. Mingyu, who was dressed in black, and Mingju, who was dressed in white, were fighting fiercely. Although they were brother and sister, they had the same father but different mothers. Their mothers hated each other, so they had fought each other since they were young. Both of them had just broken through to the half-step Great God realm, and their defensive robes and divine weapons were more or less the same. They were evenly matched in battle. However, there were also saber lights and sword shadows, and danger was everywhere. Qing Mingzi was so anxious that he was jumping. But no matter how he tried to persuade them, they ignored him and continued to fight. They did not look like brother and sister at all. On the other side, Yan Jiannan, who was ranked 27th on the God of Feathers list, was leading 5 cultivators who were close to the invincible Divine Feather Realm. They were fighting against 2 invincible Divine Feather Realm cultivators. Both sides were fighting fiercely, but they were holding back. They did not intend to fight to the death. They were evenly matched. Actually, with their strength and status, they did not need to give face to Mingyu and Mingju. But this opportunity was brought by the two siblings. They had to pretend. The battle was in full swing, but there wasn't much sweat, and neither side was really injured. Why are these two siblings fighting as soon as they come in? What a hindrance. Knight Sorrow had never seen Mingyu before, but from Qing Mingzi's reaction, he understood that Minghi's children were fighting. It's actually Yan Jianan, Huang Lai, and Yun Samping. The three of them are ranked 27th, 41st, and 48th on the Divine Feathers list, respectively. Yun Tianyi was shocked when she saw the two sides fighting. Knight Sorrow said, "These are the top 10 feather god experts in the Dark Moon's territory. It seems that our trip to the cave won't be too smooth." Yun Tianyi had an arrogant and unruly personality. It was very difficult for ordinary people to make him submit willingly. However, now that so many Feather God Realm experts had appeared, and they were all much stronger than him, this made him a little depressed. He felt that he had become a burden. Don't worry. It's not all about strength to find opportunities in the cave. Besides, we're not bad in terms of strength. So far, Knight Sorrow had learned that the opponents were Sheng Wanhai's group and Minghi's children's group. Their strength was about the same. In comparison, he and Yun Tianyi were not weak. However, they would only know the specific situation after they fought. Besides, there might be other experts that they did not know about. These were all variables. No one was 100% sure that they could come out on top. This is the first time that I, Yun Tianyi, have been a burden to others. This feeling is really terrible. Yun Tianyi had always been the top genius among the elites cultivated by the Dark Alliance. He was not used to the current situation. You can't think like that. You did very well in the small world just now. You didn't hold us back at all. Don't deny it. Besides, even if you're weaker, you can still turn the tables if you get the inheritance of the Divine Lord. Otherwise, all the opportunities in the cave will be taken by the strongest. Seeing that Yun Tianyi was a little negative, Knight Sorrow comforted her. Fighting for treasures was indeed related to luck. Strength was very important, but sometimes it could not play a decisive role. After being comforted, Yun Tianyi obviously felt better and no longer worried about this matter. Looking at the two sides fighting, he said, "This hall is clear at a glance. There is no cover at all. It's not convenient for us to go over. What should we do next? Should we just keep watching?" "Of course we can't keep watching. Sheng Wanhai's group has been in there for a long time. We can follow them, but we can't fall too far behind. Otherwise, the big opportunities inside may be taken by them." Knight Sorrow's purpose was to get the letter in the deepest part of the cave. It was okay to fall behind a little, but definitely not too far behind. After thinking for a while, he said, "Let's go out and stop the fight." "Stop the fight? Won't we be exposed? Isn't it better for us to stay in the dark?" Yun Tianyi asked, puzzled. She felt that Knight Sorrow's choice was a little risky. "We're not weak. There's no need to hide. Instead of watching them fight, why don't we think of a way to stop them?" Knight Sorrow, who was confident in his own strength, stood up and walked to Qing Mingzi. He smiled and shouted, "Mr. Qing Mingzi, so you're here too. Master Knight Sorrow, it's you. You're not affected by the soul-devouring evil wind." The moment he saw Knight Sorrow, Qing Mingzi was obviously a little stunned. His and Minghi's children relied on the defensive robes of large sects to withstand the impact of the soul-devouring evil wind. He could not figure out how Knight Sorrow, a middle-level feather god, could stand in the cave. In his opinion, Knight Sorrow should have been plundered by the high god Feng Shaoyun until he was penniless. That was why he could keep his life. "I was lucky to get a robe that can withstand the soul-devouring evil wind." Night Sorrow said perfunctorily and asked, Mr. Qing Mingzi, why are the children of Lord Mingyi fighting together? Ah, it's a long story. When Yishang had first appeared, both sides of the battle had used their soul power to investigate him. They found that Night Sorrow was only a middle-level feather god and knew Qing Mingzi. They treated him as heir and continued to fight fiercely. Only Mingyu saw Night Sorrow's figure and his eyes lit up. He shouted, Master Night Sorrow, help me kill Mingyu. We'll split any gains from this trip equally. She had seen Night Sorrow use the Samsara halberd to fight against the forbidden feather divine weapon in the Jubao pavilion. According to her judgment, although Night Sorrow was not strong enough to deal with an invincible feather god, as long as he used the forbidden feather divine weapon, he would definitely be able to deal with Mingyu. I'm sorry. I'm indebted to Lord Mingyi and can't attack his son. Of course, it's the same for you. Chapter 2490. How long have they been inside? Yan Jiannan, who was in the middle of a battle, immediately shouted when he heard Night Sorrow's words. To him, the opportunities in the cave were more important. He wasn't interested in meaningless battles. They should have been inside for 2 or 3 years. Yun Tianyi slowly walked to Night Sorrow's side and replied on his behalf, blending into the crowd. Actually, 2 or 3 years was a short time in the heavenly realm, but no one wanted to fall behind. Hearing this, both sides were obviously anxious, but they were more concerned about Yun Tianyi, an expert on the Feather God list. Yun Tianyi's appearance immediately made both sides wary. Although she was only ranked 100 on the Feather God list, the balance would be broken no matter which side she joined. If the balance was broken, there would definitely be casualties if the battle continued. These people didn't see Night Sorrow's true strength, but they saw Yun Tianyi as a delicious cake. Yun Tianyi, come and help me. After we get out, I will give you a lot of resources. I guarantee that you will move up at least 10 places on the Feather God list. There were only a dozen experts on the Feather God list in the Dark Moon region, and they all knew each other. Yan Jiannan, who was ranked the highest, immediately shouted at Yun Tianyi. Yun Tianyi wasn't much of a threat to him, but she could be a disruptor. This made him feel a little pressured. It didn't matter if he didn't kill anyone, but Yan Jiannan naturally didn't want to be killed. Yun Tianyi, join us. Lingxi, the Divine King, will be your support in the future. Huang Lai, who was ranked 41st on the Feather God list, immediately made a promise when he saw that Yan Jiannan wanted to recruit Yun Tianyi. In the Dark Moon region, the Divine King was undoubtedly the most powerful existence apart from the High and Mighty Ruler. Using the Divine King as bait was obviously more tempting than using Yan Jiannan. Upon hearing this, Yan Jiannan immediately said, Yun Tianyi, I, Yan Jiannan, not only have the Divine King behind me, but also the entire Divine Martial Arts sect. Think about it carefully. The Divine King Gate is located in the Heartless Divine Domain. Is the Heartless Divine King behind you? Upon hearing Yan Jiannan's words, Yun Tianyi, who originally had no intention of attacking, unconsciously released a murderous aura. The Divine King Wu Axayan had dealt a heavy blow to High Base City. His father was one of those who had been suppressed, and now his whereabouts were unknown. What? You want to kill me? Yan Jiannan, who was fighting, didn't look at Yun Tianyi, but he could feel the murderous aura coming from him. Immediately, a trace of anger rose in him. However, when he thought of Yun Tianyi's words, Yan Jiannan suddenly laughed and said, There's no harm in telling you. Although I'm in the Heartless Divine Domain, the Divine King behind me is someone else. You can feel at ease and join my side. Yan Jiannan wasn't stupid at all. He could feel that Yun Tianyi's murderous aura was targeted at the Divine King, not him. Moreover, he didn't dare to anger Yun Tianyi at all. Join our side and you'll definitely get more benefits. For example, Enchanting, who was beside Huang Lai, also tried to persuade him. He was more eloquent, and he endlessly promised many rewards. Forget it. It's better for a small fry like me to not participate in the fight between the two of you. Otherwise, you might not die, but I'll die anyway. At this moment, Enchanting heard Night Sorrow's telepathic message and didn't continue to pester him. After saying that, he walked into the depths of the cave. Night Sorrow, who had been chatting with Qing Mingzi, saw Enchanting walk away. He looked at Qing Mingzi apologetically and said, I have to go. After saying that, Night Sorrow immediately followed after him. So you've become someone's lackey. But it seems like you're not strong enough. It's easy to break. Mingyu, who had been rejected by Night Sorrow, said coldly when he saw him quickly chasing after Enchanting. Mingyu was very vengeful. The next time they met, she would ask her helpers to kill Night Sorrow directly. Young masters, please stop. We're here to snatch the opportunity. If you continue fighting, there won't be any soup left. The only idle person was Qing Mingzi. He was only an upper-level feather god. He was the weakest person present. If he wasn't proficient in array Dao, he wouldn't even be qualified to enter. Seeing Night Sorrow and Enchanting leave, he couldn't stop them at all. He could only shout at Mingyu and Mingju. If they continued fighting, it wouldn't benefit anyone. Hearing Qing Mingzi's words, Mingyu and Mingju gradually separated. The others also returned to their own camps. This battle was considered to have come to an end. After that, they left the main hall and walked into the depths of the cave. After they left, Night Sorrow and Enchanting returned to the main hall. Just like the passageway, let's look for clues carefully and see if we can find anything in the main hall. After returning to the main hall, Night Sorrow and Enchanting said a few words. Then, they started to look for clues in the main hall. At this moment, Enchanting asked curiously, I remember that when we first came to this main hall, many skeleton puppets spawned near the stone pillars. Why are they gone now? The place where the two groups were fighting was where the skeletons were originally spawned. Now, not a single skeleton could be seen. This was obviously strange. I feel that there are three possibilities. The first possibility is that the projection of the Divine Lord Jinyuan helped us to remove the skeletons. These are obviously created by him, but this possibility is not high. The second possibility is that there is an array in the main hall that controls the skeleton's respawn, but it was destroyed by Mingyu or Mingju. Night Sorrow naturally observed this situation. After explaining, he said in a more serious tone, the third possibility is that the energy of the cave has weakened and is not enough to support the operation of some array. Therefore, the skeletons can't respawn. If this is the last possibility, we have to hurry if we want to seize the opportunity. Okay. Let's search this main hall as soon as possible. Enchanting, who had already obtained benefits from the circular passageway and seen the projection of the Divine Lord Jinyuan, did the same thing in the main hall. However, after the two of them searched carefully for 2 hours, Night Sorrow was the first to discover the situation. He used the power of his divine soul to investigate. In a stone that had been blown off by the soul-devouring evil wind, there was a fluctuation of life similar to the one in gravel. Last time, it was gravel. This time, it is a stone. Will it be too risky for us to go in? Enchanting said with lingering fear as he recalled the terrifying experience in the gravel. After all, in terms of volume, a stone was dozens of times larger than a gravel. Although the stone is big, it contains a similar amount of life energy. I estimate that the strength of the creatures in the small world should be about the same as the ones in the gravel. Let's learn the array patterns first. Night Sorrow, who was not sure what was inside, but there was definitely a fluctuation of life energy, started to learn the array patterns on the stone as soon as he finished speaking. Night Sorrow, who had already learned the array patterns on the gravel, took less time than the last time to learn something similar. It only took him about 20 days. Enchanting's improvement was obviously greater. The last time he learned the array patterns on the gravel, it took him more than 2 years. This time, it only took him 3 months. Your comprehension has improved a lot. Is it related to the soul-strengthening elixir? Knight Sorrow asked after seeing Enchanting's performance. Yes. After taking the soul-strengthening elixir, the power of my divine soul has increased significantly. My comprehension has also improved greatly. The things given by the Divine Lord are indeed extraordinary. If he had not learned the array patterns, Enchanting would not have realized that his comprehension had improved so much. Now that he had made this discovery, he could not wait to say, now that we have mastered the array patterns on this stone, why don't we strike while the iron is hot and go in and try our luck? Okay. If it is still the same as the world and the gravel, you will continue to cooperate with me. Otherwise, we will act according to the circumstances. Knight Sorrow instructed and took the lead to enter the small world contained in the stone. Don't worry. With the previous experience, we will definitely finish the battle quickly and catch up with the people in front. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.